It is your prisonplanet.tv memberships that fund so much of what we do here on this operation. And then we're more than happy for the TV show after it's aired live, then be leaked out onto the web to tens of millions of people. That's our goal. The ruling class that controls much of this globe through fraud and disinformation prays every day that you be ignorant, that you be stupid, that you be so self-centered that you don't even care about what's happening in society, to the point of where you will actually be enslaved and most probably destroyed. They absolutely swim in the ether that is the ignorance gripping our world. I look at the headlines where the former MI5 chief says, the enemy is everywhere, watch your neighbors, extremists are everywhere. And then they segue into nationalist right-wing patriot groups. See, they use the radical Muslims that they protect and shepherd and fund as the overall backdrop for the global war on terror. But then meanwhile, it's really pointed at people that know the criminal governments of the West are the big issue. And that's hiding in plain view. Here in the United States, they're saying, brace for terrorists everywhere. By the way, they're Tea Partiers and conservatives and veterans and gun owners and libertarians and constitutionalists. And it's the same thing over in the UK, same thing in Europe. But then meanwhile, John McCain, if you believe it, snuck across with a, quote, U.S. force out of Turkey into Syria to discuss giving arms to the rebels, and then met with a bunch of Osama bin Laden, Qatari, and Saudi Arabian Wahhabists. I mean, there he is with a bunch of bin Laden lookalikes with real al-Qaeda, with the al-Qaeda brigade. It's actually called the bin Laden brigade that leads the Syrian forces. But when you fly, and there's new videos on Infowars.com, and you don't want to go through the radiation machine to make sure you don't have a bomb on you, they're going to need to look inside you. Well, you know what South Park says. And it's actually true. It's all an act of domination to get their filthy government bureaucratic hands on you. And even the idiots doing it don't even know why they've been hired to do this. Meanwhile, Rand Paul is telling it like it is. He's come out and said properly that our government and the U.S. Senate is arming al-Qaeda. But if you try to talk to the general public who's not informed about this, they go, listen to that. He knows how to talk. He's trying to show off to us. He says the government runs al-Qaeda. Rand Paul, Senate is arming al-Qaeda and rushing to war in Syria. That was last Friday, got almost no attention. Said that on the floor of the Senate. And that is a fact. That is a fact. And I just sit here, and I guarantee you, if I say to TSA, hey, this whole terror threat's fake, the government runs al-Qaeda, I'll go, oh, yeah, right. Just listen to you. Right out of Idiocracy. And it's a fact, an oxymoron, a fraudulent, raging paradox hanging in front of our faces. And now you've got multiple FBI agents involved in the so-called investigation of the Boston bombing dead. You've got more Navy SEALs and SEAL Team 6 dying, constantly falling out of helicopters, being run over, being shot, being assassinated, covering up the bin Laden hoax, the killing of bin Laden, covering up what really happened at the Boston bombing. I mean, they are so desperate in the Boston bombing that the media not look at it, just acting completely suspicious. It'd be like if a cop drove by and somebody saw him and ran into the woods, the cop would say, well, that looks like reasonable suspicion of something here. The government acts totally creepy, totally suspicious, and then publicly commits massive crimes everywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Tuesday, the 28th day of May, 2013. I am your host, Alex Jones, and we're going to be here live for the next 3 hours. We also will return this evening with InfoWars Nightly News, 7 o'clock Central at InfoWarsNews.com. Find all the free iPhone apps, Droid app, free podcast, free video feed of the daytime radio show, audio feeds, everything at InfoWars.com/show. You can also find the links there to our Facebook, Twitter, and so much more. Okay, wow, where to begin? John McCain, we're going to cover this today, obviously, secretly went to Turkey, the big NATO command base, and infiltrated into Syria, if you even believe that, in a grandstanding event, and met with the leaders of al-Qaeda as part of flaunting in the American people's comatose face that they are heroes and need heavy weapons. And then our so-called press then goes, how dare Obama not have a full-blown war when there is a full-blown war? And then that gives him left cover. Where even Obama, in a 2+ year bombardment, bombing, artillery attacks, fighter bomber attacks, 60,000 troops every few months, rotated in and out at least, that's a conservative number, 120,000 Syrians dead, war of aggression. And they have the neocon chicken hawks running up and down saying, how dare Obama, the commie, how about the New World Orderite, their buddy. And these people are all hanging out together behind the scenes at that level of leadership, ladies and gentlemen, can then criticize him for not doing enough. And McCain literally sneaks across and met with the opposition leaders. And I saw video and photos of this, and I'm going to cover it coming up later in the hour. It was so degenerate, with the so-called rebel leaders slouched like gang members in their chairs in a conference room in a captured city council. Totally and completely disgusting. Them sitting around the council room saying, we are not happy with your government not giving us aid, which is all a set piece to go, we're not giving the darlings aid to fight the Muslim extremists. Our public is so dumbed down. I've heard them, I know you've heard them on talk radio go, we need to fight al-Qaeda in Libya and Syria, when our criminal banker-occupied government are the ones putting al-Qaeda in, and then using al-Qaeda as the menacing threat to take our liberties, set up a Homeland Security spy grid, which in all the training manuals has nothing to do with Muslim extremists. It has to do with you and your farm and your ranch or your business and your guns and your children and how they're going to forcibly inoculate you. It is the social engineer, control freak, nanny state that wants in your life all over the globalist controlled world. That's every country but about 10. They've almost got global government in. They haven't mopped up state governments within governments. They haven't shut down all the free press here and there, but they're very close. And the goal is run your life. The goal is control your life. The goal is dominate you and your family. That's why the exact same programs you see in Germany are in Australia, are in the United States, are in England, are in Canada, are in Wales, are in Scotland, are in Mexico, because the globalists control the issuance of currency and credit. And coming up in the next hour, I'm going to spend some time on this. Scotland, every child to have state guardian from birth that spies on the parents and that trains the child that the state is their parent and trains the child to report on their parents. This is what communist China did when Mao took over. This is the standard program. And, of course, who is 7 times more likely to abuse a child than any other group worldwide? Government. Who gets into this type of work because they like to abuse children? You know who. God help us. And then if you're actually poor and your kids are running around, you know, drinking sewage water in a third world country, the globalists there aren't any social workers. But if it's in the West, they target Christians, libertarians, conservatives, gun owners, people that have shining-eyed children who aren't eating GMO and who aren't vaccinated. That's come out in the training manuals. We're going to cover this. I'm going to cover it more on the Nightly News and throughout the week. I want to show you what their plan is, who they go after. In fact, it's in the Australian news. They're going to be, you know, Germany is about as far advanced in this as any other country other than communist China. And Germany arrest homeschoolers, arrest parents who try to homeschool children, and then spends massive amounts of money. In fact, type in court rules German family to be sent back to Germany. Homeschooling family to be sent back to Germany. It was in the news last week. Human Events covered it. And they've been here for 3 years. Upper middle class, professional family with their children homeschooling. They faced prison time, or like Anne Frank, for secretly homeschooling and not going to the government facility to be turned against their family, shot up full of deadly cancer virus-filled shots and put through the eugenics operation. And so they fled as political asylum seekers here, and they are being sent back to prison. Their children will be taken. Homeschooling family who fled to U.S. from Germany faces deportation. Parents face charges and $9,000 fine for taking kids out of school as Obama officials prepare to send them back. Yeah, and that's a London, that's a Daily Mail whitewash. If you pull up Human Events, it says they're facing, I think it's 5 years in prison apiece, and the state is licking their chops. They're going to get to hurt those kids and hurt them bad. And, of course, you've already got brain-damaged, mindless, idiot government workers, even the ones that aren't pedophile control freaks, and they just like to follow their orders. And that's the model that is already coming to the U.S. and Australia. Scotland, every child to have state guardian. Now, remember what MSNBC said. Remember what MSNBC said. They said, we've got to break, in a promo, we've got to break the idea that your kids belong to you. They belong to us in the community, with this weird academic lisping woman. Most of these people are so anti-life, they don't even have kids. Your kids are their kids. And that's where these people then get kids to adopt and then get paid to adopt them after they've run them through a ringer. They take them from you. Then they get to warehouse them. They get to put them on 5 or 6 drugs. They get the power trip of wrecking a child, a slow human sacrifice. And by the way, I've had social workers on that have blown the whistle. I've had people that have been foster parents, and they will tell you that the state is put them on as many drugs as possible. If they raise their voice, we get to put them on more drugs. We're gonna really all get rich off of hurting this kid. I mean, this is what it is. And people are like, oh, yeah, you know, human sacrifice. That's pretty much what this society is. That's what it's based on. These are, government in the New World Order is actually a society where the weak get to hurt the strong and the beautiful. The secret of eugenics is it was created by inbred globalist royalty in Europe and funded by the Rothschilds and others and picked up by Hitler, which just shows they're all birds of a feather that fly together in their lust for power and domination and control. And they actually target just normal, healthy human activity because it's a threat to them because they never had it. And so they're going to destroy it, and they're going to be the only people left standing. And they're exempt from all the taxes, the regulations. I was seeing statistics this morning. I think I'll get to it in the stack, where all over the Western world, they're raising the pay of government bureaucrats. And it's just growing and growing. That's the plan. Wreck everything. Transfer the wealth. That's the program. Let's go to that clip of Perry on MSNBC.
Haven't had a very collective notion of these are our children. So part of it is we have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities. Once it's everybody's responsibility and not just the households, then we start making better investments.
Yeah, better investments off your labor. 60% of your money in the U.S., 70 to 80% in places like France. It's not enough. they're going to, people ask, well, how are they going to make us live in 200 square foot coffin apartments? Well, Mayor Bloomberg and also the mayor of San Francisco, mayor of New York and San Francisco have said, we're going to raise property tax until you're forced to live in this. And then they will own the coffin buildings that you live in. And then they'll land in their own private buildings that are, 50,000 square feet for themselves. But they'll get an exemption. They all get exemptions. Bloomberg, Michael Moore, the head of General Electric, Google, they all don't pay taxes. They don't pay. In fact, it's on record that when these really rich billionaires go at restaurants, people have learned everybody kisses their butt because they're rich, and then they don't give a tip. That's on record. Like, you can talk to waiters and people, they'll tell you, rich people, the really rich, they don't give you tips. Middle class does, because they actually worked for where they got. And they actually want to help people. They have an instinct to want to help and build others up and create an economy. The globalists have an instinct, a oligarchical, centralized instinct to wreck everyone. And you will find out. And don't feel bad, though, about the bureaucrats and corrupt police on their power trips. They're all dead, too. They've all been implanted with cancer viruses into their DNA that are hormone released when hormone levels drop. They're all dead. So I know they're hurting you. I know they're squeezing you, taking your kids, wrecking you, driving you into submission. But don't worry, they're all dead, too. It's only 0.1% that are actually in on this whole program. We'll be right back to break down how our government funds al-Qaeda publicly, and now Russia getting involved with Israel threatening to attack Russia. I have hundreds of articles here. I'm going to try to get to as many of them as I can and take a lot of your phone calls today. So what I'm going to do is just tell you some of the news that's coming up, open the phones up in the next hour, start getting into more of the news in detail. But I want you to understand something. If you just joined us, again, Alex Jones here. I'm your host. If you're a new listener, the news websites are Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.tv. I work on this and do this research 7 days a week, at least 15 hours a day. And I know what I'm talking about. And when I tell you that GMO has been designed and developed and filled with adjuvants and carcinogens, as well as active, live, microplasm encased nanotech cancer viruses, and they really are nanotech. They're engineered viruses. When I tell you that, and we've done countless reports on that subject, you might want to go look into that. Kind of like for 15 years, I've been telling you that the plastics they've chosen will change your entire metabolic rate, will make women hyper-feminine and then accelerate aging of their tissues, ending in breast cancer and ovarian cancer and uterine cancer, and will hyper-feminize men, leading to other cancers as well. And then the media spins that I'm being anti-gay because it makes men sexually conflicted in their different glands like the hypothalamus. It also does that to other species, not just other mammals, but other families of animals, amphibians, fish, marsupials. I mean, we're having a giant medical experiment done on us. And I've covered it in the film Endgame. I've covered it in countless reports that we've done here on eugenics. Food, the Ultimate Secret. You can look that up, 25-minute long short film. Brain-eating viruses, brain-eating vaccine. I kind of used a shocking term to get people to watch the video. All of those are out there with the proof of what I just said. And then I sit there watching large minorities of the public, of every race, color, creed, religion, waking up to this, and who are inquisitive and informed and want a future. And then I see other people who wear their ignorance like a suit of armor, whose greatest possession is that they don't care. And some of them aren't even stupid. They consciously believe that not caring about anyone but themselves and being nihilistic and only caring about that minute is powerful and puts them above other people. And that same spirit that you see in the very worst losers, because they're generally incredible, unhappy losers who go around messing with people all day and playing weird games, and they feel completely powerless, and they're completely unhappy, and they have hellish lives devoid of honor. The globalists are like that, but are a little more sophisticated. And, I mean, I'm here to tell you, these people are not humans. There's a 6-minute video up on Infowars.com where Americans have forgotten the meaning or don't know the meaning. I forget the exact headline of Memorial Day. And, yeah, there it is, memory hole. Americans no longer know what Memorial Day stands for. And Mark Dice goes out, and he does this in L.A. We do this in Austin and get almost as bad a response. People aren't quite as, but any trendy area. And the people say, I don't care about Memorial Day. I don't care what it is. I don't want to know what it is. I don't care to find out what it is, because it's all about me. And these people don't understand that when other people have that attitude, and they do, you know, at first when people have that attitude, you might be able to get ahead at some level. You'll end up being an unhappy person that dies alone, but you might be able to find people that are stupid that you can cheat and manipulate. And you might be able to monetarily get some symbols of success, but those are garbage trappings. The real wealth is friends and family and being honorable. Not that any of us are perfect, but you know, trying to be honorable is the greatest wealth, and getting to know other honorable people is the greatest experience in life. And I look at these people. We're going to play part of this video when we come back. The full video is up on Infowars.com. And I've talked to Mark. This is really who he talked to. He ran into one woman who knew what Memorial Day was and one man. And the guy, rightfully, who looked like he was about 60 years old, got mad at Mark when Mark was saying, you know, that Memorial Day is for surfers that died. Because you should get mad at someone ignorant. But we're going to play this and then get into all the news and your phone calls. Monday through Friday, from 12 noon to 3 p.m. Eastern. We are here live. Again, my friends, I'm going to be opening the phones up on any of the issues I've raised or any points you'd like to bring up. The toll-free number to join us is 800-259-9231. 800-259-9231. We will get you up and on the air. I want to go over just some of the headlines, and I'm going directly to your calls, and then I'll go back into all of this in more details. But I do want to play part of this Mark Dice piece. He'll be joining us on the radio show tomorrow. Most listeners don't know who Mark Dice is. A lot of you do, though. And some listeners are like, why do you promote Mark Dice, even though Mark Dice has attacked you before? It's because I don't care. Mark does a lot of good work, and so I positively reinforce that good work. And I don't do it Pavlovianly on purpose, but it's kind of like when an ice cream truck comes around, a lot of kids get so excited because the ice cream truck's got good things in it. And, you know, I saw in Mark, I don't know, it's got to be now 8 years ago when he first got started, got out of college with a public relations media degree. He went out and did really great reports. So I pretty much, to a great extent, helped put Mark on the map. But he was already doing great work. He deserved to be on the map. And then he went through his own personal stuff later. I figured that. And I'm not knocking the guy. And kind of went off into a bad area of his life. And it's like the prodigal son. And when the prodigal son came back and the other son said, I've done nothing to you, Father. I've always been faithful. Now you're throwing a party for the prodigal son. He's done all this bad stuff, you know, to you. But it's like, hey, think how much I love you if I'm doing this for the prodigal son. Because I don't think Mark fundamentally is a bad person. And it's like that with everybody. It hurts me to see people that I know have potential destroying it. And it hurts me to see a society that has so much potential. I mean, I took my son to exercise this morning. and we gotten done exercising at Zilker Park, and I saw a bus pull up with regular kids. They weren't special needs. And I looked at these kids, and they were clearly walking dead, about a third of them. Because, see, when they hit you with GMO, with every mammal species, pigs, guinea pigs, rats, rhesus monkeys, you can look up the studies. They go back really 25 years with BT style. That's the most popular. Corn and things that grow their own pesticides. The first generation has a large IQ reduction, increased cancer, sluggishness, also more aggressiveness sometimes. It manifests depending on your genetic tree, your genetic blueprint, the type you are. And then by the second generation, and a generation's about 20 years, humans tend to reproduce by about age 20, 22 is the average, I guess. And we've got all of this, garbage going on, and I sit there and I look at people, and you look at adults now that are one generation, people that are 25, 30 years old under GMO, and you look at the next generation, people that are now 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years old, who were born out of the last generation. My God, man, the next generation, it's going to be, and you can see the numbers, the cancer numbers, the neurological disorder numbers, the infertility numbers. It is parabolic. It is a straight-up graph. And that's why they've got to get their police state control grid in first before the real death starts, because you're going to have mad parents. And they said 50 years ago in papers we've dug up and covered on air that they knew some of us would find out about this program. I mean, hell, they write books. The White House Science Czar does about jacking our food and water to sterilize us. And this is the psychopath, sociopath, sadist party. I mean, it's fun for them to, I go out in public, and I'm from a globalist perspective, but against it. And by globalist perspective, I see what's going on. I am horrified by it. I don't even become enraged anymore. I become very sick. And I can walk over to people that have an autistic child or two. Some people are so submissive, they even when the first one gets brain damage and has a seizure in the second round of shots, they still take the next baby in and do it. They're so submissive. And I'll say, hi, how are you doing? So what's your son's name? Oh, his name's, David. He's 5 years old. And I go, I see he's autistic. What spectrum disorder is that? Oh, why? Do you have an autistic child? Well, no, I'm a parent. I have an interest. And I've done this hundreds of times to the point of my wife and children say, please don't do it. And I will continue to do it because I care. It affects me. The only way I cannot literally go hide, in the mountains somewhere and turn everything off is I have to go try to help people. Not because I'm a hero, folks. I have empathy. If they can target these people's children, they can target all of us, and they are. Spraying us and jacking the water, and it's impossible to avoid all this stuff. And Fukushima, radiation levels off the chart on the West Coast. A year after I told you that, it all came out in the news. Some isotopes, hundreds of times safe levels. EPA's reaction was to raise it. And I'm sitting there, and they go, well, David, he was 18 months old. And I said, oh, what happened? Well, he had a seizure, and then he was asleep for about 3 days, went to the hospital, and then he was like this, but he's getting better. And I'll go, do you ever think it was from the vaccines? Well, we've heard that, and he did have it right after the shot. I mean, hundreds of times. And oh, really? And then they'll go, yeah, and we've got another child that's autistic too. But it happened to him, when he was about 18 months too. And I go, and I see you have a daughter here. She's fine. Mm-hmm. In fact, I was even telling some people that were on the hike and bike trail that had autistic kids this weekend, and the woman looked at me and she said, yeah, girls are better. I was like, wow, you got brain. I didn't say this. I went, and her husband was looking at me. He looked like Clark Kent. It's a great-looking family. Their kids have been murdered, soft-killed, lobotomized, and I'm sitting there talking to them, and the Clark Kent dad's about 6'4". He's kind of looking at me like, they didn't know who I was. And he was like, so why are you telling us this? And I was like, well, girls have a stronger blood-brain barrier. And they go, yeah, girls are better. We've heard that. And I'm like, yeah, I guess they are better. I was like, so what I was just like, well, listen, I can see you're pregnant again. And I said, you might want to look into vaccines. And then because I'd stopped at the top of this hill and there was these other women there, and I saw this woman turn around and looked at me like angry. Because I was getting out of line. I was talking. I was a human up there. And then, because the hike and bike trail was a madhouse. This is actually yesterday. I say the weekend. Felt like yesterday. It was a madhouse. I've never seen it so busy, even where I go. And so I got down to the bottom of another hill, came out by the creek, and there was about 20 people down there. And there was another pregnant woman with her friend and 2 other people, because that's where all the yuppies are. All the successful people, all the people who think they're rock stars. Leave it to Beaver folks. And I'm sitting there, and I stop, and I start listening, and they're having discussions. Yeah, I'm not, whatever you call it, the term where you're diabetic because you're pregnant. I'm not pregnant diabetic or whatever the term is. And I'm sitting there talking, yeah, blah, blah, yeah, it's our first kid, blah, blah. And I'm sitting there listening. She paused by the creek to look at it for a few minutes before I went hiking up the next hill. And I went, well, listen, you better read those vaccine inserts. You better read those vaccine inserts because they're going to tell you there's no side effects, but the vaccine insert will tell you it can kill your child. And again, these women had their husbands with them, and they turned towards me because it's weird to talk. Guys talk about sports, act tough. Hey, weather's nice. Yeah, I'm doing good. Yeah, great. Working at the insurance company, doing good. Yeah, we're going on vacation here. See, I've broken with this. The normal behavior is I'm going to go around in grocery store lines, at restaurants. I now get up at restaurants, and I walk over to people's tables. That's what I do now. And I'm going to do it everywhere. And let me tell you something. If you start doing that, we'll break their back. If you just start not watching television and inviting your neighbors over for a barbecue, if you just start spending time with your family, if you just start not eating GMO, we will take over the market and break the back of the GMOs. And they know that. They're even crying uncle right now. Monsanto's freaking out right now. And again, I was going to get into some other subjects. My point is I have total empathy for humanity. I love humanity. I love our art, our literature. I want to support the better attributes of humanity. And I get up here with all this news. Our government funding al-Qaeda, McCain going to meet with al-Qaeda, Rand Paul coming out and saying, we're funding al-Qaeda. The emperor has no clothes. God bless Rand Paul. He's played a little politics with them, but he's playing them, not the other way around. And they know that. That's why the neocons and the liberals hate him. God bless him. And I've got all this other NSA news. I've got Scotland saying every child to have a state guardian who reports on the parents. You're all guilty until your family's destroyed. It's not guilty until proven innocent. You're no longer innocent until proven guilty. You're guilty until we kill you. We're going to suck everything out of you, and then we're going to blow you away. And, of course, the little mind-numbed, brainwashed minions of the system, they don't know that. They're on a power trip of running other people's lives when they can't even run their own. I've got all this news. I've got your calls. I'm going to get to everybody. It's just that if you want to know where I'm at, it's the eugenics. It is the artificial environment they're trying to build for us. And it's that I can't sit there and walk down the street and see a family and instantly see their children with a million-mile stare and see their kid, staring at the ground and see them and go, oh, is your child autistic? They're like, yeah, how do you know? Well, and a lot of times they'll have pairs of them. And they go, they tell us it's genetic. Yeah, it is genetic. There are some people who can be shot in the heart and survive because genetically they've got extra arteries, extra connections, extra electrical impulses. They're really tough. But it's the bullet through the heart that would kill 99 out of 100. But not some people like Rasputin, in the Tsar court. It took them like an hour to kill him. Some people got thicker skulls. Some people you can't knock them out because genetically how they're wired and how their bone structure's set up. You got to bash their brains out to knock them out. Other people, you can knock them out. They got a glass chin. But it isn't that you have genetics of a glass chin while you're knocked out. It's because you were punched in the chin. You're getting cancer. You should be getting it when you're 90 years old and you've had the replication of your cells, not when you're 15. You've been put in an environment that is now accessing your genetics and causing the mutations. And I just realized that's everything. And I'm going to tell my whole crew, all of them, I want to go into the GMOs. I want to go into the admissions of diet injections, injunctions, like Bertrand Russell talked about, to brain damage and dumb down the public. I want to just constantly beat the drum of the thousands of Harvard and Stanford studies and Oxford studies and about sodium fluoride, what it does to the brain, and what they're doing. I want to hammer how they've done this to us because we're seen as a plague and we're being soft-killed. We're being dumbed down ahead of the larger cull. Because we have to have a break with the globalists. They never want people to come to the realization that this is going on. That's why they don't want to talk about how we give $85 billion a month to foreign banks and Congress won't be told who. Totally illegal, totally unconstitutional, treason, 1,000 times over the chart. They go so overboard on purpose because it works. They fund al-Qaeda publicly to commit war crimes all over the world and then invade the countries to get rid of the al-Qaeda they put in, but then don't even go after the al-Qaeda. They actually go after innocent people. And that's so over the top, they get away with it. It's so over the top to have hundreds of FBI training manuals that are sent out to barber shops, hardware stores, gun shops. I say hundreds. It's over 200 last year put out to every type of business there is, tailored to them on what to look for. And it makes everything an act of terror or so that everyone can be seen as a terrorist, to create a total culture of paranoia instead of being concerned about the government historically that's the real danger and is running the terrorist. Common sense, founding fathers, world history. Oh, no, the government didn't do anything wrong. They're not corrupt. That's a conspiracy theory. How crazy Alex Jones is. It's your neighbor you can't trust. Over the top, 2 billion bullets, paper targets of 5-year-olds they're training to kill. Even when the company comes out and admits it's real, never hits the news. 7,000 just last year. 7,300 anti-mine heavy armored vehicles training for war with us. Meanwhile, they tell us the enemy's everywhere, the Muslim extremists, when they run them. All of this is just over the top cuckoo land. And then I see a video. We will play in the next segment, then calls next hour, and then news. I'm going to get to everybody. Sheila. I love the name Sheila. I like in Australia they call women Sheilas, period. Jason, Mark, Julio, Samson, and others. We're going to get to all of you. But I just want humanity to make it. I want us to really work together and be honorable. Instead, the general public has taken on the attitude of not caring about anybody getting ahead. And it is a disaster. Just a bunch of self-centered, egotistical people that have never even faced real challenges, having no idea how the rest of the world lives or what our ancestors have gone through to take us to this point. And then the very worst of us are in control because they cravenly crave it. And not recognizing, people are like, you're negative. No, I'm not. I'm positive. And by not recognizing the great evil, we allow it to take over. I look at the articles at Infowars.com. National broadcaster refuses to cover Bilderberg meeting. Send John McCain to Guantanamo Bay. Oh, yeah, he works with al-Qaeda. Send him. Media coverage blackout over anti-Monsanto protests. Facebook blocking post about it. Representative Schiff's bill would repeal authorization for use of military force. That's some good news. Why is there just a blank check to NATO and the president? Facebook wages censorship war against moms of autistic children who protest GMOs. Memory hole. Americans no longer know what Memorial Day stands for. I'm going to play that coming up. The attempt to destroy the individual. Great John Rappaport article. The Japanese financial system is beginning to spin wildly out of control. That's just some of what's coming up after this quick break. I'm Alex Jones with Infowars.com. But we are in a giant scientific, technocratic tyranny. They're killing us, folks. They're poisoning us on record. They even add radioactive isotopes to most water supplies on purpose, and will try to arrest you and block Freedom of Information Act request if you try to find out what is in the stuff they put in the water. And you go, why do they do that? Why do people beat women up for no reason? Why do people kidnap children? Why do people rob folks? Because it's what they like to do. But because they're the government, it's okay in history. We call that a tyranny. I'm going to get to part of this clip and play more of it in the next hour after we go to your phone calls that I was just mentioning with people. Almost every person Mark Dice talked to not knowing what Memorial Day was. And so even though there's people that are misguided and think war is patriotic, at least they know what it is and are just misguided. What about the trendies of this world who know how to act cool and dress like television says, but do not have any idea, don't even have the slightest inkling of what a major holiday is? Let's go to part of this clip.
What is Memorial Day for?
What is Memorial Day for?
No, just you. What's Memorial Day for?
Wow.
People are victims.
What is Memorial Day?
The globalists take one look at these people, folks. These folks have been drinking fluoride. Guaranteed that guy's had all his vaccines.
What is Memorial Day for?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
I don't know. Are you going to be barbecuing and celebrating?
Yeah, with my buddies.
But
These are the people that are going to vote to take our guns and make us their slaves. They will vote.
I don't even know.
Don't even know.
No. I don't know what Memorial Day is, man.
It's the big holiday. It's like the kickoff to summer when you barbecue and get drunk and stuff.
I don't think people from Chicago celebrate that thing, man.
They don't celebrate Memorial Day?
Nah, they're all ruthless, dude.
It's just
All
a
right,
Southern
pause.
California celebration.
I mean, this is like 6 minutes long. There's like 20-something of them. 2 people know what it is. And they're rightfully kind of mad at Dice. Like you should be. Like, because he starts saying obnoxious stuff on purpose. But the point is they think he's serious, so they get mad saying Memorial Day is a surfing holiday. That video's up on Infowars.com. But that's why we're in so much trouble. The government runs al-Qaeda publicly, and then they have Rachel Maddow go, Alex is a traitor. He says our government runs al-Qaeda. Well, so does Senator Rand Paul. And we have to just start calling them on all of this, okay? Going, look, I mean, not all of us are totally dumbed down begging to be, injected with cancer viruses and drink fluoride all day. You don't have a right to do this to us. And we've somehow got to get the sheeple to wake up. But even if it's a minority of us, historically, we can change things by saying no. There's no special interest for liberty, folks. Good people have to get together on the Bill of Rights and Constitution and enforce it aggressively and stop being people that basically lay down. Laying down will transmit you to tyranny. Standing up will transmit you to liberty. Briefly, at the end of this hour, we're running the special for just a couple more days until the 31st. 15% off all water filtration systems. That includes ProPure, the best stainless steel gravity-fed system with the anti-hydrofluorosilicic fluoride filters. You can get it all. The Pro 1 filters, you name it, all of it, 15% off. We already have the lowest price out there. When we do 15% off last time, the whole factory sold out. Okay, and so we can keep this going a few more days. 15% off. 15% off, InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsStore.com, promo code WATER15. In the box, we get 15% off, or 888-253-3139. When you call, give them WATER15 to get 15% off, 888-253-3139. Well, you've heard of doctor shopping to get more Oxycontin. Well, Holder went judge shopping to find a good globalist, a good commie, a good New World Order person to subpoena the phone records they're already spying on Fox News to persecute people. House Judiciary investigating whether Holder lied under oath. Think so. Got caught lying about Fast and Furious. Not in jail. Everybody is intimidated by him, which is living on your knees, I guess, instead of dying on your feet. You end up dying on your knees very slowly and painfully politically. John McCain makes a surprise visit to Syria to hang out with al-Qaeda. We got a bunch of clips of that coming up. But right now, let's go to your phone calls. The toll-free number to join us is 800-259-9231. Sheila in Texas. You want to talk about smart meters. Those are little robots attached to your house, spying on all new devices illegally, just like Google. And the CIA director admitted that, by the way, if you're a new listener. Go ahead, Sheila.
Hi, Alex. Thanks for having me today. And I'd like to encourage your listeners to get a pencil out and take some notes on this brief visit I have with you. The smart meters are part of an infrastructure of wireless technology that really got in our homes back in the 1980s with the cordless phones with the antennas that pulled out. Well, as these seem so convenient, these personal devices like our cordless home phones, baby monitors, and Wi-Fi, as well as these smart meters, emit 900 million waves per second. So everything you've been talking about this morning regarding autism, the influence of GMOs on our digestive...
No, they've done university studies. You put fish near a router or plants, you name it, and ends up making the plants not grow as fast or not germinate, and ends up making the fish mentally retarded. But that's a good thing. Government loves us.
Well, the thing is, these personal devices, your cordless phone, baby monitors, etc., were designed to service your home radius. These smart meters are set up to cover square miles of penetration of these frequencies. However,
and they've been linked to cancer and death. What's wrong with that? Are you an extremist?
You know what? I am a person who says no when it comes to my community. So in our little 5,000 population in the center of Texas, we implemented Texas Local Government Code 9.004, which allowed by petition of the people to write up and change our city charter to specifically allow utility customers the right to reject installation or request removal of any product or service.
You know, that's awesome. I've been reading about cities and people passing stuff like that. Send us the proposal, and we'll do a story on it. Send it to showtips@infowars.com. What city are you in?
I'm in Brady, Texas, the heart of Texas, but I've had difficulty getting information to you. So you need to tell your guys to watch out for this information.
Well, they get like 10,000 emails a day, but we're trying, ma'am. I hear you.
But this is empowering. Every community in Texas, Alex, can do what we did. It is the purest form of democracy, where the people write up...
So you passed it? It did pass?
By 72% of the vote.
Let's stop right there. Send it as smart meter in the byline to showtips@infowars.com. And also, I'll off-air give you another email. And then you're the type of person we'd like to have come to town and be in studio talking about how you did this, because this is a great solution idea. I'm glad you got it on the show. They've done stuff like Department of Energy's come in with these incentives that, if you'll put a smart house in, we'll use taxpayer money to pay for half of it or something. And that's all done to get this. There it is, New York Times. As towns say no, signs of rising resistance to smart meters. And it does talk about Brady, Texas. New York Times. Wow, good job. That was on May 18th. Well done. And who honchoed this?
Texas Tribune came and spent 3 hours in an interview here at this little town. But, Alex, what we need are the hounds of hell to go after this with their personal injury attorneys. When you look at the pathetic, quote, science that the FCC...
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Exactly. You fight fire with fire. Use the knuckle-dragging lawyers. Hey, I tell you what, we're going to come right back to you. And so Sheila, were you involved in this?
Oh, yes, sir. But I'm just like everybody else.
Tell you what, I know you're just like everybody else. Red-blooded. I need to take phone calls more because I just started going to phone calls, and Sheila in Texas told us, I'm going to go back to her in a moment, about a May 18th New York Times article, as towns say no, signs of rising resistance to smart meters. And the first article is about Brady, Texas, and she was involved in it. And she told us about it. And I knew there was resistance in towns passing it, but I didn't know this was happening in Texas. And for those that don't know, the smart meters have been in major studies. The levels of microwave radiation they're putting out have been directly linked to cancer. Even the New York Times itself has reported on that. But the bigger issue that you cannot debate is that the CIA director, Petraeus, before he left, admitted, and guys, type this in show viewers. If you're a radio listener, you can go to Infowars.com and pull this up. But it was in Wired Magazine, AP, Reuters. Just type in CIA director, your dishwasher is watching you. And he said, your computer, your dishwasher, your clock, radio, All of it under globalist specs worldwide, from Australia to the U.S., entire Western world, everything being made via specs has systems to turn it on and listen to you, to track what you're doing. They can send data, not just wirelessly, but data over power lines now, where the electrical cord sends orders. There it is, CIA chief will spy on you through your dishwasher. Boom. Boom. Wired magazine. Now, again, I told you this 15 years ago because MIT was bragging in MIT magazine about it. They brag they're putting cancer viruses in your vaccines. The White House science czar bragged in the 70s about putting sterilants in the water. What do you think hydrofluorosilicic acid is? We're almost 90% in the Western world. In the third world, it's not happening. People say, well, that's just third world populations are more fertile. No. People move from Latin America, Africa to the United States or England. They become more and more infertile. It's the water. It's the food. It is on purpose. It is on purpose. And I've got all this world news. I'm going to get into Libya. I'm going to get into McCain going there and into Syria and hanging out with al-Qaeda. Scotland says every child to have state guardian from birth. This is a global system. They're a couple years ahead of us. Australia's starting this. This is coming to America. Forced inoculations are already starting here. We're going to get into House Judiciary investigating whether Holder lied under oath. That's like investigating whether, well, you know what bears do in the woods. It's like investigating do fish swim in the ocean. We're going to get into that, the latest on the IRS thing, all of it. But when she called in last segment, if you missed it, and when I went and searched it, or the crew did, and found as towns say no, signs of rising resistance to smart meters. All the time I see on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com in the comments, because I'll tend to scan those, I'll look at an article. If it's already been up for a while and I hadn't read it yet, I'll kind of, scan real fast because I can speed read. I'll read 20, 30 comments, boom, look at them. And I constantly see stuff like, why aren't you covering this? Well, I didn't know about it. Or I knew about it and then got sped up on other stories and didn't get to that. So if you don't hear me covering something, call in or go do your own YouTube. You're like, well, that won't be as big. It will be big. Start a YouTube channel. Start a Facebook. Start a Twitter. Sure, they're enemy operations. Use it against them. Start your own blog talk radio show. They're not sponsors. They should be, as much as I plug them. Just go do it. If you don't know how, get your neighbor to. Get your grandson to. Pay your neighbor to. Just fight. Fight. Get up. But I want to give you the best report I've had in a long time. And I didn't tell this story. And then I'm going back to the caller. As you know, about 3 weeks ago, I spent a week in Hot Springs, Arkansas, and broadcast live from the historical Arlington Hotel. Because I used to go there as a child with my parents once a year or so. And so I wanted to go back with my children, went and had a great time. They were having, and anybody can look this up. In fact, I bet it's even on their website. For the entire week I was there, they were having the Arkansas water treatment convention in town. At the big convention center they've got there in Hot Springs where they have the horse races. And the Arlington was full of water managers. Because it was just the managers and their assistants there of the entire state of Arkansas. And let me tell you something. I couldn't get in the pool. I couldn't get in the hot tub. I couldn't get on and off the elevator. I couldn't go eat at a restaurant across the street without good old boy water heads, people that run their town's water. I'm not going to say some of the names. Some of them were good-sized cities. Coming over and shaking my hand and going, let me tell you something. We dump that stuff out in the woods and it kills the trees. It's so deadly. We don't have any place to do it, but you're right, and we're not putting it in the water. And we hadn't been putting the water for years. Another guy, boom, shaking my hand. We're going to beat these people. Don't you worry. We don't put that in the water. Boom, another guy grabs my arm. I mean, the whole time. And it just hit me during the break. I had forgotten about that. And I guess they don't hire you as the head of the water department unless you're like a 6'4", really mean-looking redneck. And the black guys were like black rednecks. The point is that, I mean, it felt good. And then I just was in a daze and and then we had listeners. I wasn't saying where I was until the day I left. Every day, about 5, 6, 7 people would like be in the bar downstairs looking for anyone, guys with their wives and people with their kids and people from Little Rock drove in. America is starting to awaken, is what I'm telling you. And you know why the Arkansas people were so mad? They voted 3 years ago at all these different county and city levels to take the fluoride out. You can look this up, and then last year they passed a state law via federal funding to forcibly put hydrofluorosilicic acid and everything else that comes with it. Upwards of 350 chemicals. Some are only 100 and something. It depends where you get it. Some of it's from Florida, Montana, China, Mongolia. They mine phosphates for fertilizer. You can mine into limestone deposits and find the different things that plants need. And it's not Brondo, electrolytes, to quote Idiocracy. And they go in there, but it's full of toxic waste, and you've got to purify it out. Well, the stuff that's left, radioactive isotopes, you name it, is put in our water. And everybody always knew this. And I was talking to these guys who are like, I've been listening to you for 15 years, and finally people are listening. Let me tell you, 2 years ago, that Harvard study really helped, and blah, blah, blah. That's when we finally, and you know, I just remembered why I didn't tell anybody this. Because I had a thought after it happened like 50 times that, wait, if I talk about this, see, nobody's perfect, the feds will know about it, but they already know. And then they'll come around snooping. But you know what? I just had the split-second understanding. Good. Go mess with the rednecks even more. Send feds in to harass them to poison their families. They know this stuff is roach poison. They know it's killing people. And some of them were telling me, yeah, my wife's got cancer. She's only 40. I want to die. I don't know when the shooting war is going to start, but I'm getting sick of these people. I mean, just keep pushing it, New World Order. That's all I got to say to you, because I totally and completely forgot that I had my hand shook off of me. And by the way, I was staying on the other end of town, like 5 miles away from where the convention was. I would walk down the street with my children and run into the water people when they were out at night and stuff. And so again, ladies and gentlemen, the globalists are spying on stuff. They know how awake America is. That's why they're panicking. Because no one wants to kill their kids. It doesn't help your teeth putting that in the water. And it's not calcium fluoride you need some of for your teeth. You need some calcium fluoride. It's natural. They go, it's natural. That's like saying, you know, you need some lead, it's natural, and then shooting somebody in the head and going, what? I gave you your lead supplement. You've all heard the analogy of drinking sunscreen so you don't burn your skin, drinking it for your teeth. My dad is a dentist, by the way. And if you want it, he'll give it to you, but he's convinced about the fluoride. Because it's toxic waste, ladies and gentlemen. It's not even regular fluoride. Now, this lady called in, Sheila, and she was involved, she says, in all this. She told us about it. As towns say no, signs of rising resistance to smart meters all over the country. They radiate you. They spy on you. And they go, you're just against technology. We don't have to go out and meter read anymore. No, you bragged. You think we're so dumb. You bragged. We know you're spying on us. It's a robot, an Imperial probe droid, attached to the side of your house, sending back information to the globalists that make Darth Vader look like a choir boy. Going back to Sheila. Sheila, make the point you say is so important. Go ahead.
Well, Alex, you're sitting here talking about fluoride in your city water. Get a petition together. It requires 5% of the registered voters, or 20,000, whichever is less. You, by petition, change your city charter to get fluoride out of your water. Change your city charter that says that you as a resident have the right to remove any product or service you deem harmful to your person, property, or privacy, regardless of whatever the elected officials say, that they don't think there's a problem. We are the people. This is power. So as all the issues that are so rampant globally, right here in our amongst us, we feel so overwhelmed.
Tell the listeners how you did it in Brady, Texas, passing a law that if people say, I don't want property rights, a known robot spy radiating me attached to my house, send a person, which notice, this also gets to the issue of how we need to decide the future of humanity together, not have the globalists who think we're scum decide it, where they're using robots and computers to replace us on purpose. It's not like we're a lobby saying don't get rid of horse and carriages. They're trying to just set up a system that makes us obsolete. We need to build a civilization where humans are needed and are not obsolete. I'm going to go to break, Sheila, and come back to you. You're going to have the floor in this segment. Then Jason, Mark, Julio, Roy, and others. As much as I love Julio always calling in, if that's the same Julio in Illinois, he's a great guy. After that, we're going to do first-time callers because I want to give everybody else a chance to get in, like Sheila, who I believe is a first-time caller, because they bring up such interesting stuff they never get a chance to get in. 800-259-9231. But a lot of good stuff is happening, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of good stuff. We're back live. I'm your host, Alex Jones. By the way, a smart meter is a master control system that ties into all the other electronics. Another way they're sneaking this in is smart house systems where you actually bring the Trojan horse in yourself and pay for it. And again, these technologies wouldn't be bad if the globalists weren't engineering it to be oppressive. But here is New York Times, Associated Press, SourceFedNews.com, all of it. Look at this. Connect is always listening on your Xbox One. We reported this 2 years ago. But privacy is a top priority for Microsoft. What a joke. And it says, well, if you have it set to high privacy, it only gives the CPU enough power to spy on certain keywords. But if you really want to have it, face scan you when you enter the room and basically talk to you, you've got to have it on the other settings. So you're not allowed to not have it spy on you. Remember I told you 10 years ago that Google had patents to watch everything you're doing over the camera and microphone and sell it to the NSA? Oh, yeah, right. Now it's just out in the open. Xbox One is watching you. And there's no way to turn it off. And you're not allowed to play unless it's online. And then you go pay to bring it into your house. And then they have the CIA director going, yeah, we're watching everything you do without warrants. Don't listen to that kook Alex Jones, though. Just like it's mainstream news that McCain met with Wahhabis that actually wear al-Qaeda uniforms and fly al-Qaeda flags, demanding more taxpayer money to them. But your attractive wife, because that's we've done studies, you've seen it in the news, that's who they're going to pull. She's going to get groped, man, by guys that and women, because the women, the ones that like doing that, are people that like to force something on someone. Can you imagine that? Only in America, they're going to have to look inside your underwear. There's a new video out, one of our activists, where they're grabbing on her. She says, don't touch me there, and they, of course, do, because that's why they want that job. I mean, in the old days, you go to a park and do that. You go to jail if you're one of those type of people. But now you get to wear a uniform, and because of al-Qaeda. Whoa, man, works great, doesn't it? Drink your fluoride, folks. Drink your fluoride. Okay, Sheila, make your point about what you guys did getting rid of the smart meters in your area of Texas, as reported on by the New York Times.
Well, Alex, finding Texas Local Government Code 9.004 was of itself a battle. This started out in October when our city council indebted our small community $2.5 million to put in all these smart meters of water, electrical, and gas meters on our homes. They did this with 2-line sentence in our city agenda, which we fought as being a violation of Texas Opens Meetings Law. But there's a real good reason why you have the saying you can't beat City Hall, and that's a long story into itself. But because of right after that, I started submitting agenda action item forms to be an action item on the agenda, which was denied to me 5 times by our mayor, who happens to live across the street from me, and we share a parking lot at work. So you don't get much closer to your elected officials. Even in this small little community, I was literally blocked 5 times for even having the ability to seek action of my elected officials. Which,
by the way, is illegal under the state constitution. And again, it shows how there's a wall because they know they're in the wrong, and there's always money paid one way or other. And it turns out smart meters break more often, cost more money, have to be replaced quicker. So it actually also is another boondoggle on top of it.
Well, in one report, after a matter of hours in one little home, there was already a dishwasher fire. Well, Who ever heard of a dishwasher fire? You know, that just doesn't happen. Okay, so then because of all the high profile and the fact there's so many issues about the smart meter, but let me tell you personally, the reason I'm in this to the magnitude of sacrifice and time and energy is the health consequences. Your pineal gland that detects darkness can't tell the difference between light frequencies and the frequencies from these high...
That's right, so you're never really getting sleep. You're never, absolutely. Studies in rats, you can look them up, find they actually sleep better when the wireless is off.
Well, I had a Vietnam vet. I have a little wellness shop, and so I have people come in all the time about sleeping problems. And he was sleeping 1 hour a day. I said, Joe, go get rid of your cordless phone, turn off your Wi-Fi, put your cell phone in the other room, and Alex, he starts sleeping 4 to 5 hours a night. People come in complaining of migraines or headaches. Ask them, do you have curly light bulbs? The complex fluorescence? Yes, I do. Get rid of them.
Don't they put out something like 10,000 times the radiation of a regular light bulb?
They have 500 units of grand Spitzer units of radiation compared to an incandescent that has 30. So as people go replace their ceiling fan with 4 light bulbs, before they had 120 units of radiation, and now they have over 2,000. Now, when you look into this...
Tell you what, stay there, and we've got a website also that is fighting smart meters. Stay with us. Alex Jones here, back live. Thank you so much for joining us. The news websites are Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. Don't forget, we have the nightly news every night, 7 o'clock Central, weeknights, and the Sunday radio show, 4 to 6 p.m. I am going to Bilderberg. I'm scheduled to fly out there, by Tuesday, and I'm going to be there covering it. England stops thousands of people now outside of law. If you're basically not a communist, a socialist, a fascist, or a Muslim terrorist that the government runs, you're not allowed in the country. If you're persecuted Christians fleeing anywhere in the world, you're not allowed in. If you care about seriously, the government is totally criminal. It's all come out that they are engaging in a clash of civilizations. Some of the low-level people may not be criminal, but I am going to be traveling to England and covering that. But regardless, Paul Watson is going to be there. I've been playing phone tag with one of the senior police in the area who wants to talk to me. But I called him this morning, and he said, I'm driving. I'm not allowed to talk on the phone when I'm driving. I think they even have a law there against it with the hands-free, because the nanny state said so. He said, I'll call you back when I'm not driving anymore. But by then, I was on air. So I'll try to get a hold of them to find out what's going on with that. And a lot of other things coming up, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, we're working on a guest that was a lawyer inside the system. Well, I'll leave it at that until coming up in the next segment. I'll give you an idea if we're going to be doing that in the last 30 minutes of the next hour or not. But I've been talking about smart meters. We're talking about how all this is happening. We're going to go back and let Sheila finish her point. There's also a website we can put on screen for TV viewers if people want to visit it as kind of a model for their state. It's Ban Texas Smart Meters. And what is the URL? BanTexasSmartMeters.com. And again, the lady that we have on the line, I'm glad she told us about this. It's in the New York Times, what she and others have been able to do, but she was the one that honchoed it to start. As towns say no, signs of rising resistance to smart meters. Brady, Texas is where it starts, and it talks about what she and others did. Again, more of our listeners taking action. But I thought before we went back to her, since we got on this subject, the Lord moves in mysterious ways. Let me show you some of these articles here for those of you that are in denial. We showed Wired Magazine and AP earlier, where the CIA says they're watching and listening to you via all the smart stuff in your house without warrants. And by the way, you're the target. And they know this stuff is frying you. Frying you. You read it here first. Google's ambient background spy tech. And it has the patent in our article that first reported on it in 2006. People thought we were lying. That's PrisonPlanet.com. Here's the Daily Mail. Is nothing off limits? Now Google plans to spy on background noise in your phone calls to bombard you with tailored adverts. And that's already begun. But it's not just your phone calls, it's your computer. In your house, it's everything. And then it breaks down their patent from 2006. And they're already doing it, by the way. They are the NSA. Verizon follows Google in turning phones, TV into info wiretaps. That's why you got to have a new digital TV. They got microphones built in. They're tracking everything you do. You're like, what do I have to hide? They're listening, and computers are they're recording it all. And now it's like, well, it's extreme to not want government bugs in my house. So I'd say, go roll up your sleeves, take the shots, drink the fluoride, and get ready and get some burial insurance on you and your family. Because people are going to start dying real fast. You think pediatric cancers are up 10,000% since the 1950s? At the growth curve, another decade or so, it'll be 20,000% from the numbers I've seen. I mean, it's just going to get where everybody's dying, but it's like trendy. Well, let's jog to get funding for all the sick people and fundraisers for everybody that has cancer instead of, why is everybody dying? And it's in America. We lead the world. England's next. And there's cops in England listening right now. Get ready to bury your family. And you can laugh now, bud. Wake up and fight them once your wife's dead or you're dying or your kid dies, okay? I wanted to save your kid, but you're on a power trip. You were picked psychologically because of it, so prepare to die. Prepare to die. I mean, the government is listening to everything. They're poisoning the food and the water. Of course they're evil. Of course the IRS is persecuting liberty groups. Of course the UN runs child kidnapping rings. Oh, yeah, right. Look it up. Thousands of mainstream articles. I'm ranting. I said I'd go to your calls. It's just, I'm right. I know what I'm talking about. I warned you because they were bragging about it. I'm nothing special, except when people say they're killing me and spying on me and jacking me and doing all this stuff, and the honeybees eat the corn pollen and all die. And then the studies come out in Germany and Canada and government studies confirming it. I mean, I read that article like 5 times last year on air out of the Washington Post where it said, farmers are breaking GMO planting rules, not creating sanctuaries for the insects. When they have these GMO wheat crops, potato crops, corn crops, all of it, they have to plant another field the same size so that all the insects don't die. See, the globalists don't want all the insects to die, so you've got to plant something for the insects to eat, and then the humans are given it. I mean, it is just... And I'm just supposed to sit up here day after day, oh, I'm Alex Jones, tune in weekdays, and just act like everything's normal. Let me get some more headlines here. Verizon follows Google in turning phones and TVs into wiretaps. Microsoft Xbox didn't violate Google patent, says ITC. Yeah, they're having, this is NBC News. Google is threatening to sue Microsoft, and they were in federal court with them, administratively, saying, you're turning on microphones and cameras, watching people. That's our patent. But it doesn't exist, though. Don't listen to Alex Jones. There's no bisphenol A hurting your children in the plastic. There's no weather modification. That's the crazy man. The crazy man says the government's listening to you. He's a crazy man. You know, I am crazy. I am crazy watching people go walk over the edge of a cliff, not freaking out over this. Look at this. U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. Patent application, full text and image. Here's a new one. United States patent. And this gets into all the spying on you, but that's just copies of the old patents. Here's another one. Kinect is always listening on Xbox. And Microsoft calls that privacy. People are upset about us spying on them. Well, just call spying on them privacy. So see, now privacy means being spied on. Man, these people really have Orwelled us, haven't they? Xbox One's Kinect can turn off, Microsoft says, noting privacy worries. Oh, you have to turn it completely off, not be spying on you if you believe that. But they all have secret reboot capabilities, just like the cell phones. The newest console for Microsoft could be used to spy on you in your living room. No. You know, I got death threatened whenever I found out Scientific Atlantic cable boxes 15 years ago had hidden microphones in them. Microsoft's new Xbox will track everything you watch on TV, but will reward you for watching the ads. Well, that's a good deal. And Daily Mail. The 5 biggest problems with the Xbox, Forbes, goes into how it spies on you, how it tracks you. It says, in capitalist America, TV watches you. Remember, I told you this in 2006 with the patents, and they were already doing it. And in our office now, when we do, Anybody that has Google on their deal, now we've found that if you talk, it will now advertise that to you. Oh, it's already listening. Of course, you know, they just use that to enable it to spy on us here as a government tap over the top. I'm not sure they're doing it to everybody. But we've done tests where we sit there and talk about the most inane, weird thing in the office, you know, winking, and then a day later it's in the pop-up ads. Oh, that's crazy. Next they're going to say they're listening to us. I had Bloomberg, they're writing some big cover story. I had Bloomberg, they say a featured big official report. You know, 2 reporters on at once with me the other day. The third time I've talked to them. And they're going, so you say the government's training for war? And I said, yeah. And I happen to have all the Army manuals, so I gave them that, and they giggled at that. And where it says internment camp, and I gave them the Emergency Centers Establishment Act and the Model States Health Emergency Powers Act and the Clergy Response Team documents, and the more giggling, like listening to Beavis and Butthead. Yeah, oh yeah, they are. And then I'm talking to them, and I go, yeah, I've been to a lot of urban warfare drills where they train to shoot rural groups, mainly white people in John Deere hats. They thought that was real funny, and I said, well, here's my films. They kept laughing, and I said, well, now, you know, I said, you've seen in the news where they have, quote, Homeland Security drills to kill zombies. And they start laughing at that, and I said, listen, that's been all over the news. Will you look that up? And they went, come on, Mr. Jones. Come on. The government's training to kill zombies. And I went, yes, as a simulant, because military was saying, why are we training to kill Americans, to mow them down in human wave attacks? I said, so now they just call them zombies. Please look it up. And they were like, let's move to the next thing. See? And I was like, but it's LA Times. That guys pull up Homeland Security trains or Marines trained to fight zombies. Zombie apocalypse training drill organized by Halo Corp for military police set for October 31st in San Diego. And they even use the cover of, oh, the video game people are involved. It's fun. We practice shooting people. See, because humans are ugly. Humans are already dead. Humans are scum. And by the way, you are dead. They've already soft-killed most of us. They think they're just going to watch us all die slowly and sit there and roast hot dogs on our corpses. It ain't going to happen. Homeland Security Newswire. First responders drill response to Night of the Walking Dead scenario. They're training on every base in the country that you're a zombie to be killed. And that's the cover. Oh, gee, Sarge, so when the mass of 1,000 people come over that hill, we train with the heavy 50s to take them out? That's right. It's your job to try to stop most of them before they hit the perimeter. And they've got laser, you know, designators, so they'll fall down after you've shot them numerous times. And then it'll be up to small arms. And World War Z, I told you this before, they had these drills this year. It's all a simulation for mass death and killing you and your family. And you will find out if we're unable to stop them. And so, of course, that sounds crazy to some yuppie kids, with their degrees working at Bloomberg in New York. They're all having a good time. They're talking to this crazy Texan. Everybody knows Texans are dumb. I rode a horse to, work this morning. If I didn't have a liberal from New York in the bathroom, I couldn't wipe my ass. Excuse me. I apologize. We have a family audience. That was wrong, and I won't do it again. Right now, I'm out of control. I mean, look, I bow down to you, okay? You are superior to me. You can watch all this crazy stuff happening and watch your family dying of all these disorders and think it's no big deal. You are superior to me. Hundreds of patents, documents tracking us, watching us, spying on us, military training to kill us, police training to take on veterans. I mean, hell force stuff. And I'm supposed to just sit here and everything's fine, everything's wonderful. Oh, man, I am so angry now. This is what happens when I get a 3-day weekend. Oh, there it is. I guess the article came out. Is that a new one? I guess they're going to do more stories. I guess I missed that one. Conspiracy buffs warn of Kissinger cabal. Can I have that article? I used to Google my name every day. I don't even do it anymore. Whatever, man. I mean, does everybody just want me to go to the South Pacific and leave? Because let me tell you, I'd love to shut this thing down. I don't have to manage all these people, have to deal with all this crud anymore. You people want it. But see, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to just give in to the whole thing. I'm not going to just go along with it. We got Mark wants to talk. Jason wants to talk. Sheila, Julio, Roy. I got to get to everybody. I've taken one call so far. I mean, I get upset when the CIA director goes, we're watching you without warrants. And they put the deputy director of the FBI on CNN to go, yeah, we're watching everything you do. We got 10 years recorded, everything you've done. We got full files. Just committing huge felonies on TV. And he just smiles. I love all these government people. They all like walk around like they've arrived. Oh, man. Man, I'm a government. I got a black suit. I drive a Corvette. I drive a, they got this government spy base down the street from my house. They're so stupid that I don't even know I live by them. And nothing against Corvettes. I like Corvettes, but they got all these sports cars out there and like this DEA base spying on everybody. Well, the computer only flicks it if we hear drug talk. You're there to make sure the government can ship in all the drugs and get the big profits. Just all a bunch of children. Hey, DEA people, they'll give your kids some more shots. Because you'd have to admit the government's killing everybody to save your kids, and you won't. Because it's too important. I drive by and see them, and I see them swagger around the parking lot, and I see these women they've got out there, and with the men, they're all standing around with their hands on the vehicles. Oh, we're so smart. Oh, we're so tough. Just the body language. Oh, I've arrived. Oh. It's like a status thing. It's like you're movie stars or something. Meanwhile, MSNBC's like, your kids belong to the collective. I mean, it's just all total psycho world. A bunch of delusional wannabes who just walk around. I've discovered the scourge of society is people walking around in fantasy land about how cool they are. I've discovered it. It's absolute scummism. All right, I apologize. I'm out of control. Ma'am, finish up your point about send us all your info. You've done a great job as the progenitor of the fight against smart meters in your area, death meters, spy meters, Imperial probe droid meters. So, was there anything else you wanted to add?
Yes, Alex. With all the knowledge and gifting you've given your audience, I want to thank you for your efforts, and I just bless you in your mind and in your spirit to be calm with the truth, because the truth is strong. I've been contacted by 30 different communities who want to do what I've done in Brady. This is under Texas Local Government Code 9.004. My website is hyws.us, and click on Take Charge. There's a registration of people who want to learn. So
you're behind the statewide deal. I'm looking at your site. You've got resistance against their murder operation all over the place.
Well,
how dare you, Sheila, not just roll over and die? What, have you not been getting enough vaccines, honey?
Well, actually, Alex, what's interesting is all these frequencies actually stir up the heavy metals that are deposited in these bodies.
Oh, no, I know. It has a compounding additive effect, yes.
Yes, and actually the dots you're seeing right now, those occurred in about 5 days after the news went out, just in small circles. And you see that pink dot, Alex?
Yeah, that little evil pink dot?
The pink dot is Emily's story. Emily is so sensitive to electromagnetic fields. As they go to visit a friend's house, she starts arching her back. Eyes start dilating. And the friend that they're visiting goes, oh, my gosh, they put on a smart meter 2 weeks ago.
Oh, yeah, they knew all this a long time ago.
Well, I tell you what, with all in a world gone out of control and everyone feels helpless, we're not helpless. The power of petition is available to any... Oh,
no. They tell you... Look, I'm going to set you up as a guest on the Nightly News. Put her on hold. Let's get her name, number. I think you're obviously the lady in these news articles. In fact, tell people your full name, Sheila.
It's Sheila Hemphill at Help Yourself Wellness Shop, because it's really up to us to take charge of our health, to take charge of our children's education.
Yeah, and your phone number's on the screen. We're going to get you on as a full guest. I got to get to these other callers, but folks, you heard them. You can't beat City Hall. Roll over and die. The corporate Borger here, you will be assimilated. No, it's a fraud. It's a eugenics plan. No. Hey, I know if you're a new listener, this show sounds completely insane, but I'm begging you to go watch my film free online, Endgame, Blueprint for Global Enslavement, made 7 years ago. And it's tame compared to how bad it really is, but it'll blow you away. It has a full online bibliography. Whatistheendgame.com. You want it in higher quality, buy the DVD that has the expanded extras at InfoWarsStore.com. Have a showing at your church, wherever. But you heard about the Nazis. Well, they were only a spinoff of British intelligence that took over the U.S. through the Council on Foreign Relations to carry out eugenics. and they can't line you up and shoot you. You'll resist. So they first shoot your brain with chemicals and bioweapons, and then they just slowly start poisoning everybody to see if we notice, to see if we resist. Then it bankrupts healthcare. They bring us into national healthcare. Then they carry out the orderly extermination. I'm going to go to Jason, Mark, Julio, Roy. But, hey, I went to one call that hour, but she got about 5-6 minutes all totaled. This always happens when I've been gone a few days. I am so wound up right now. By the way, this broadcast is listener-supported, and I sell things I believe in. If you hear me endorse something, that means it's something I believe in. Go to InfoWarsStore.com, 15% off with promo code WATER15, and you can get 15% off on all the water filtration products, and that's one of the biggest things we can all do is purify our water. Never drink the tap water. Never. I mean, this government, with all the secret testing they've been caught doing, you're going to drink water they're giving you? Sure, a lot of the water managers secretly dump the stuff. They don't put it in the water because they love their grandkids. It doesn't matter. Who knows what else the globalists are doing? Filter your water, InfoWarsStore.com, the best deals, the best filters, side-by-side comparisons with the competition. All the books, the films, the T-shirts, the magazines, all of it is about waking others up, getting your fighting spirit back, InfoWarsStore.com. Take advantage of this once-a-year special. I haven't done this in a year. 15% off. It ends in just a couple days on the Pro Pure water filtration and the live straws and all of it. 15% off. 15% off. InfoWarsStore.com. Okay. We got Henry in South Africa, but he just called in. I got to get to these others, then I'll get to Henry. And I apologize to the callers. I haven't gone to you in over about an hour, but I had to get to the other caller. That was important. Talking to that lady. She didn't want to brag about herself. Now, I read the article. She was in the article. I looked at her site. She's the person overthrowing smart meters who started the dominoes going all over Texas. You need to do like Sheila. Let's go to Jason. You're on the air, sir. Welcome.
Alex, God bless you, and God bless Sheila. And can I ask you a favor?
Sure. What's that?
Can I hear your war cry, brother?
You know what? My voice is already too deep. I can't really scream anymore. I can't do it, but I could say, yeehaw, baby.
I love it. All right, Alex, I got you. I'll let you go really quick. I just want to clear something up here. I run a radio show with my brother Philip B. Kirshner. It's called Revelation News Radio. I'm the guy that you had on back in August of 2012 that got taken away by the cops for the guns and the
Oh, yeah, we had a bunch of talk show hosts taken away for saying they didn't like Obama. Yeah, that's because it's a free country.
Exactly, brother. I just want to clear this up because we had Kokesh's guys on recently, and Lucas, his producer, was on your show, and he was making it sound that the show that he was on, which was our show, was like representing we were coming in the name of InfoWars. We never did that, brother. So I just wanted to
here's the deal. We don't screen your calls, but like inside baseball gossip, I have no idea what you're even talking about. I don't like this armed march on Washington. I've been clear, but I also get it's their right to do it, and the globalists are bad. But I have a bad feeling, and more, my feeling gets worse, and that's my issue with it. But I personally, sir, have no idea and what you're even getting at, and I'm just sick of the whole thing. So we're going to come right back. Stay with us. All right, if you just joined us, I've gotten into some of the news, but I haven't hit the top stories in detail yet. Kind of went off into the whole electronic spy grid from Xbox Connect to smart meters. I want to get into McCain going and hanging out with al-Qaeda leadership. Rand Paul's come out and said, why are we supporting al-Qaeda? Again, that's a big move. Even though it's public information, still nobody else will do that. That's why I like Rand Paul. That's a real deal, folks. I hate to even be honest with the audience about this because I don't usually support politicking, but Rand Paul and Ted Cruz are playing them, not the other way around. And they already know that. I mean, I'm not saying a secret. When the Republicans were trying to stop him in the primaries a few years ago, when the Democrats did after, they were like, we know he's really like Alex Jones and putting on a big act, like he wants to work with the system. And that's not how I do it. And you know, like Rand's like, I support the amnesty bill. So that then when they get it and it's a total payoff and criminal, he can have credibility to kill it. Same thing with Ted Cruz. Because it's just they know what they're doing, and it's something to behold. Let's go to Julio in Illinois. Julio, you're on the air. What do you got today, buddy?
Hi, Alex. Yeah, I was at the March Against Monsanto on Saturday in Chicago, and it was just astonishing to see all the people that were there. There were about several hundred people downtown Chicago, but from all political ideologies were there, and it was quite beautiful to see. And you mentioned about an hour ago how you want to focus solely on GMOs and this genetic revolution.
Well, I want to focus on it more because they're poisoning us on record, and where they admit they're doing it, and all the elite won't eat it, and the elite won't have smart crap in their house because it spies on them and it's hurting them. All the big rich Hollywood people I know, all the big globalists that come out in the news that I've read about, they go to rural areas to be away from all the electronics and with landlines and nothing but pure foods for their families. They know what they're doing. It's game over. They're killing us. I'm sorry. Just every time I realize it, I get upset, Julio. If I caught a neighbor in my house putting poison, soft kill poison in my flour, or in grain, I would stomp their guts out. And it's not that I'm some tough guy, but I mean, I am, a man here. And these people are killing us, and I've had enough of their crap. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I hear you, Alex. That's why I embarked myself as an independent journalist to cover GMOs and weather mod and this genetic modifying society that's going on. I spoke to a University of California Davis professor, Kent Bradford, who was pretty open with me and telling me that about 90% of what you purchase at the grocery store is GMOs, and was telling me how wonderful it would be, Alex, to introduce to your children and to other children throughout the world fruits and vegetables like apples that will never turn brown, never go rotten because of GMOs, and how wonderful that would be. Or I spoke to a diplomat from the United Nations who told me how wonderful it would be, Alex, to send third world nations drought-resistant seeds so we could feed third world populations. And
I saw the documentary. It's excellent. But I mean, here's what's crazy. There could be genetic engineering that would actually help. They are designing it to hurt you on purpose. I've had the top scientist on who quit over this before.
I spoke to a professor from my alma mater, Joel Gruber, who's a doctor, and that's what he told me. He told me he thinks there could be some benefits to genetic engineering, but the way companies like Monsanto, Cargill, and the rest are doing, they're doing this purposely to destroy crops. And one last thing, Alex, I saw the Rachel Maddow clip of her, talking about weather mod. It's so funny. But here's a few things. Number one, NBC Universal, now owned by Comcast, owns the Weather Channel. So, why would people want to look up weather modification? And then secondly, Alex, Rachel Maddow kind of did a disservice to what she was trying to do. Hopefully, even if it's just one person, watched what she said and actually looked up weather modification and actually saw government documents. She just did a disservice. And one last thing, I kind of tease this towards the end of my film, but I have uncovered...
Stay there. We'll come back to you. We have the filmmaker of the documentary Genetically Modified Society who got in, Julio. He's done reporting for us in the past, and we are changed up in Chicago. I've seen it. We should air that on the nightly news. It's been introduced in the $100,000 film contest. We've got like 500 entries. I've watched, let's not exaggerate, 150 of them or so. On top of going to Bilderberg, on top of running the news operation, trying to make Obama deception too. I'm not complaining. That's why I get busy. Almost the point of being crazy. There's so much like whack-a-mole. These moles are coming up. I've got to watch all the other ones. And I've got to judge it. First place, $100,000. Second place, $10,000. Third place, $5,000. But everybody that enters it gets a chance to work with us on film projects in the future. Here's my greatest frustration. I have a stack of sponsors that will pay us. They're already sponsors on radio and TV for live plugs on the radio. You hear me even skipping the network ads, which cost the network money. But because I'm the #1 show on Genesis that has over 1,400 affiliates, over 1,400 affiliates now on GCN. It's like the third largest, maybe the second largest radio network in the U.S. They don't put on airs. It's a modest operation, but they really are almost as successful as Talk Radio Network, maybe as successful, and then above that, of course, Clear Channel. But it's a small company. basically that's on the margins of the non-monopoly, big giant radio stations. But my big frustration is I want to be able to hire more reporters, more journalists, more researchers, more people. I don't have time so much to even hire them and then train them. And then who assigns the stories? I mean, it's just there's so much, but I'm trying. And I'll tell you, if we had the money, we have to have a modest backup so we could run 3-4 months if all the money got turned off. But other than that, and I could sell a little bit of real estate I have if things ever got really bad, but we are running on a shoestring. People hear me say we cost $7 million to run InfoWars every year. Folks, small newspapers, in say a town like Abilene, I've seen the numbers, might cost $10 million a year to run. Okay? For what we reach, for the amount of people I reach, if I work for the globalist, I would be paid $20 million a year. I've been offered that kind of money. I mean, 12 years ago, I don't mean to digress here, I want to go to your phone calls. I was told you'll have a TV show, you'll have a book deal, this is all lined up, you do what we say, and up front, here's millions of dollars. And it wasn't hard for me to not sell out because I live to talk about this real information. And we've been somewhat successful on our own, but I sit here running around, spending my time trying to get money in here to fund things. And if I didn't have to spend my time on that, we'd be much more effective. And we are very effective. They have big trade publications write about how we're the model of new media. And I have Bloomberg and the New York Times and Vanity Fair and the London Guardian and just everybody calling, GQ, Esquire. How do you do it? What are you doing? How do you... Because they see the real numbers. They know we really do reach 15 million people a week one way or another. That's a conservative number. They know they're dying while we're growing. How do I do it? If I read 15 articles where Google says they're watching us and they admit the smart meters are giving us cancer, and they admit, they catch the UN adding sterilants to vaccines, and I've got, the Times of India reporting on it, I mean, I'm going to cover that. And I guess because I'm flamboyant in that I get upset by this. I take it personal. I'm freaked out. I'm living in a science fiction dystopia. It's getting worse by the minute. I know it's real. I've gotten the phone calls. My wife's gotten the phone calls saying, you don't stop what you're doing, we're going to kill you. And you say, a couple of pejoratives at them. Got to be honest, that's what you do. They're like, really? You were just talking to your uncle or your mom or your dad about this. You better watch it. And I'm like, no, you better watch it. You think you're safe working for people that give you the type of power to be able to do this? That's why I don't have bodyguards and nothing. Okay, I'm in God's hands. And if they kill me tomorrow, that's the way it is. I am not part of diseasing and killing all these children. I'm not just talking about abortion and partial birth abortion. I mean all the walking dead out there. Yeah, they're killing everybody. It's getting worse by the month. And I will not sign on to it. I will not be part of it. Bill Gates, father, former head of Planned Parenthood, known eugenicist, constant meetings about they're trying to reduce population, making jokes about releasing our number down to 0 at TED conferences, and all the fellow travelers laugh at it. Man, I take that serious. People say, well, why do you like Mike Judge? He made a film about eugenics, everybody being dumbed down. They're dumbing us down on purpose. Real eugenics is about dumbing people down to get rid of them. It's about a lion eating the other male baby lion, or a grizzly bear eating the male grizzly, the baby, so it doesn't have to be challenged by him later for territory and mates. That's all these globalists are into, man. We're under attack. We're under a war. And there probably are in some areas too many people. But they won't let us develop the technologies to empower humanity. Instead, some smiley face punk gets to talk about how he's rolling out mosquitoes that'll forcibly inject you with crap, whether you like it or not. Last time I said that, some idiot sent a comment on the site going, mosquitoes suck, they don't inject. If you weren't so stupid, some of you willfully, you might actually be able to have a life. Mosquitoes inject high-powered saliva out of their proboscis into your bloodstream to liquefy the platelets and to exsanguinate the juices. That's why the patents on record are they're already been caught all over the world loading mosquitoes with forced vaccines. And the vaccines are to reduce fertility. The vaccines are to give you cancer, delayed action, and the cancers are to reduce IQ. Look it up, okay? You don't believe me? Look up patents for mosquitoes to deliver vaccines. And they've already caught them doing it. It's going on right now in Florida. And I take it personal that some smiley-face billionaire piece of garbage is up there laughing on TED TV about reducing our numbers down to 0 while he thinks it's funny. Now listen here to all of you that serve the system. You see them saying the veterans are the terrorists because in the next 10 to 15 years, if they have their way, we're holding them back. They say they're 10 years behind. People are like, where's the New World Order? Why didn't it got a lot worse? Because we're holding them back. We're holding the door, and people are like saying, are you sure there's something on the other side? You can hear the scraping on the other side, the battering ram. You can see the history, and people, there it is. Super mosquitoes can fight malaria with a bite and deliver it. Oh, but it's nice, see? Oh, God. Okay, I said I'd go to your calls. Julio, you made that film. It's great. What was your last point? Because I got to get to everybody else or I don't get to nobody.
I appreciate that, Alex. And towards the end of the film, I teased. I really didn't have enough time to expose weather modification the way I wanted to. But the director of National Weather Service kind of hinted that, oh, yes, there has been weather modification, but, oh, we're not doing that anymore. That's just old technology. Well, a couple of weeks later, I went to your neck of the woods. I was in San Antonio, Texas, attending a weather modification conference.
Which doesn't exist.
Yeah, it doesn't exist. They told me, I had one person tell me that a government organization permits and approves all of the cloud seeding, all of the solar radiation management.
No, there's a Congressional Weather Modification Board under the Department of Energy. No, it's well known.
Yeah, Kay Bailey Hutchinson introduced that bill, I believe, back in 2005. But I'm currently working right now as we speak on a Freedom of Information Act request. I don't want to pull a Breitbart and say too much, but what I'm going to uncover, it's pretty shocking, and it will make Rachel Maddow look more like a fool than she already is.
Yeah, because what I said was, I said weather modification is real. This probably wasn't. This is probably a real tornado. And then she edited it to where it sounds like I'm saying Obama sent the tornado, and she'll probably take that clip out and play it. And it's a desperation move. God bless you, Julio. Break it with us here when you get it. That's a great reporter. Wish I had the money to hire him and bring him down here. I just don't have it. That's why you need to buy the books, buy the videos, buy the Pro Pure water filters, support our sponsors, because, folks, we are the best there is at fighting this. Doesn't mean we're great. We're the best there is. Henry in South Africa. Thanks for holding, Henry. Then Sam, Nolan, Sean, and others. Go ahead.
Hey, Alex. Greetings in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. Thank you for giving hope to people out there. I've been listening to your show for a couple of years. I'm about 39 years of age and an IT engineer. I live on the coast, south of the south part of Cape Town. And basically, I see it. It is real. There are a lot of cameras coming up all over the place, all over the national roads as well in our country. Nobody seems to be assuming responsibility for them or what they're doing. But it's pretty plain to see that they basically want to start spying on everybody as well this side. It's worse in Johannesburg, but a lot all over the national roads, and also the banks in our country as well. When people's accounts are running into debit more and more these days, it's becoming more frequent because of the pressure of this satanic system that basically we're under. And bottom line is that people now, banks are charging them more than they can afford to put back when their accounts run in debit. And
to explain this, we can build unlimited civilizations with the technology we have. The globalists admit that. They are artificially imploding the world economy into their hands, and out of the social revolution that comes, they're going to use the giant unwashed mass to fully enslave the producers. This is a globalist war against thinking people, a killing fields like the Khmer Rouge, a hellish worldwide meltdown. In fact, I have a stack of news on that I'm going to get to. Do you concur with that analysis?
Absolutely, Alex. 100% with that.
Stay there. I want you to finish from South Africa. Henry, just stay with us a few more minutes. I appreciate you holding. And then we're going to go to Sam and Sean and Nolan and others. 800-25-99231. 800-25-99231. And absolutely, worldwide, they're gearing up for asymmetrical warfare. It's in mainstream news in the U.S. They're training that the public are, quote, all insurgents. They're training that we are insurgents. No, they are the insurgents. Oh, just a brief correction. They flash up on screen a Bloomberg article, one they wrote about me a few years ago. As I said, Bloomberg's been calling me a bunch doing some piece. And I thought it was already out because it said May 26th. I thought, oh, it must have already happened. That was in 2009. There's another piece coming out this week. But it's conspiracy buffs warn of Kissinger cabal red mailbox dots. We're talking about red mailbox dots. It's like Rachel Maddow's like, and look at this engine part from 9/11. Jones is discredited. And he says 9/11 didn't even happen. What? Oklahoma City didn't happen. No, I didn't say that. I said the globalists clearly carried out Oklahoma City. And on 9/11, they were financing and protecting the al-Qaeda people that were involved. That even came out in Newsweek, that they were protected and allowed to be involved in it. Just like I have mainstream news articles after I go to your calls, I'm going to go over, with Rand Paul going, why are we arming al-Qaeda to attack Syria? That's Associated Press. That's Reuters. I thought that was crazy when I said that. See, it is crazy that they're funding al-Qaeda publicly while telling you give your rights up. But I'm not the one that's crazy. Okay, there are literally thousands of studies that hydrofluorosilicic acid lowers your IQ, gives you bone cancer, pancreatic cancer, leukemias. Don't believe me? Type in Harvard study, because everybody salivates off the name Harvard. And they look at 24 studies and say, it's conclusive, this stuff will kill you. And I know I keep saying that every hour because I've just had the realization that that's the proof of how crazy this is. The old-timers in the 40s said, don't put that in the water. This is toxic waste fluoride, and it's going to really hurt people. Shut up, crazy man. What, you going to nuke the Russians? You know, because Dr. Strangelove? There it is. Government and top university studies. Fluoride lowers IQ and causes other health problems. Duh. And then it looks at how we have the worst health in the world. The worst health. And I know you're like, Alex, you said it in the first hour. You said it in the second hour. I just marvel that they're killing us, and it's fun. Do you know what industrially is used to be sprayed on the crops by crop dusters when it's actually dust and not spray? Still, do you know what? Last time I checked, it's the second most sold. There's different variants of it, but if you add them all together, you know what the second most popular dust is when they actually dust crops? Do you know what aircraft spray out on crops? Do you? Powdered hydrofluorosilicic acid, because it's more psychoactive. It's like souped up fluoride. By the way, they won't believe that. Type in EPA sets limits on fluoride as pesticide. And they just said last year, we recommend this be phased out. It's real deadly. Oh, yeah, the stuff. There it is. EPA proposes phase out of fluoride-based pesticide. Boom, New York Times. I guess 2011 now, time flies. I'm going to shut up and go to the guy in South Africa. Oh, he hung up, got sick of holding. Oh, he hung up during the break. He didn't know I wanted to go back to him. Well, whatever. God bless you from South Africa, brother. But do you think 1.6 part per million is bad in water? They put as much as 600 parts per million in powdered eggs. You know the stuff they put in cake mixes and stuff so it doesn't stick to the cellophane siding or the wax paper? You guessed it, hydrofluorosilicic acid. I mean, it's a miracle people can even tie their shoelaces. I mean, this is incredible. Sam in New York, thanks for holding her on the air, sir.
Hey, Alex, how you doing?
Just totally freaked out. I'm just raising the alarm here best I can.
Yeah, man. I just wanted you to know that we've got a lot of love for you here in New York City. There's a lot of people listening to you, man, and I love your show. I've been listening to you since October. You woke me up in a lot of ways you can imagine. I've been an info warrior since way back, but never knew you existed until one of my cousins, Felix, turned me on to you on Facebook, and he actually shared his membership with me. So, I listen to your show every day, and I try to tell people, wake up people here, and I love when you're sarcastic and you make the jokes about racial shadow, and I love when you do those jokes. Don't ever lose that, man, because you crack me up. You have me laughing a lot. So, and it can't be all serious, but, you know, I try to wake people up here and tell people about you and tell people about what's going on. And there's so many people in denial. I went to the Monsanto March the other day. I was talking to one of my friends, a musician buddy of mine, and, you know, he was, you know, one of the guys that kind of woke me up. Now he's telling me, why am I listening to you? He says, you know, I don't understand. You didn't believe me years ago when I kept telling you about Obama. Why are you listening to Alex Jones? Why did you go from one extreme to the other? I said, listen, I listen to Alex Jones because everything he says is true. I Google what you say, I research what you say, and everything you say is true. So I don't understand. I said to him, you know...
I'm going to answer that question on the other side. God bless you. Okay, we're going to go to Karen Hudes, a huge whistleblower. Well, this news has just been breaking the last few days with John B. Wells covering it on Coast to Coast AM. When I first saw this about a week ago, I said, there's no way this is... You know, this big a whistleblower. Then I went and looked it all up. She's in Forbes, you name it. And, well, I hope they don't go arrest her. In fact, she's headed to court reportedly in the next few days. We're going to talk to her in just a moment. And then I'm going to go back to your calls in overdrive. But let me just right now mention a few of these headlines here. John McCain met with known al-Qaeda rebels. He wants more weapons given to him. And here's Rand Paul. Senate is arming al-Qaeda and rushing to war in Syria. You can read the transcript there on the New American Magazine. And here's another one out of Foreign Policy, put out by the Washington Post. My colleagues just voted to arm the allies of al-Qaeda. That's a quote by Rand Paul. And people are like, really? Also, I pointed this out before, but now it's been picked up in a bunch of publications. Op-Ed says raid on Gibson guitars, another case of Obama targeting conservatives. And again, they're targeting anybody who is a nationalist or anybody that's a populist or anybody who's a libertarian. They don't target mainline Republicans. They target people that are actually patriots. Because what Republicans say, a lot of it's true. They just betray and don't do it. Okay? And again, they also have been in the past targeted mainline, conservatives that started to wake up. But they've also targeted alternative media liberals that are anti-war and stuff. And this is what persecution is. When the government comes after you for your political views, that's Nazi Germany. That's how Nazi Germany started in 33, 34, 35, 36, 37. It wasn't until 38, 39 they started arresting everybody. And now they're training with Homeland Security to go after the American people. That's a big deal. And I haven't gotten to this yet. Maybe I'll cover it on the Nightly News tonight with David Knight because it's such a big deal. But because it's the same global model. Scotland, every child to have a state guardian from birth. They're like, well, it's just to make sure the parents aren't bad. Who watches the government? This is designed to break up the family. This is the globalist plan. That's the issue, is that when the government has you in their custody, they put right at 68% of foster children, U.S. nationwide number. Pull it up. Right at 2/3 of foster children are on an average of 7 psychotropic drugs because they get more money. I've had the foster parents on where they're told, the 3-year-old yelled, we're going to put them on antipsychotics because then it's a special needs child, you get more money. And the eugenicists like it because it attacks the general public. I mean, this is hellish, folks, what's going on. And then if they don't get in trouble for all these scandals, we're just being conditioned to accept it. Scandal fatigue, Fast and Furious, IRS Gate, Spygate, all of it. Benghazi Gate. And the Republican leadership doesn't want to go after them on this because they're all connected as well. Well, we need to go after them, all of them. By the way, this is huge. We appreciate her joining us. She has a lot of courage. Karen Hudes. And again, I'm going to read the bio from coasttocoastam.com because it's the best one out there. Former World Bank attorney and whistleblower Karen Hudes talked about how she uncovered corruption in the World Bank. According to Hudes, forces within the international institution have placed the entire world at risk of currency wars. It's already going on. And a permanent... and it goes on in gold and cooking the books and lying about it. If the financial malfeasance continues unabated, unemployment will skyrocket, international trade falters, and economies around the world will melt down. And then it goes on to break down that what will happen will make 1930s look like a game of tiddlywinks. According to Hudes, ordinary citizens have been kept in the dark about this dire situation by an elite group that owns 40% of the net worth of all publicly traded transnational corporations. Through a series of interconnected directorships, they essentially own everything, including the media, she said. Wow. And we'll go into overdrive with her if she can do it, and then go to your calls, because she was telling my producer, well, I wanted to say it in her own words, that she may be facing whistleblower reprisals. Because, I mean, these people get $85 billion in U.S. taxpayer money a month alone in QE3 given to them. And then the debt they're creating, we're signed on to. I mean, this is a master plan that I've been talking about for 16 years with George Humphrey, a local Austin business owner and top economist. He was the first person, not Ron Paul, to lay out how it would all unfold. Because he himself is a successful businessman, former city council person. I hate to toot his horn so much. It's just got to be done. That guy is incredible. And I know he lives all over the world. Where is Humphrey? I've been wanting him for 6 months. Let's go to our guest, Karen Hudes. Karen, thank you for coming on with us. Tell us about yourself, what you're facing for going public with this, and the bombshell information that you witnessed and what's going on.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm really glad to get the chance to tell people firsthand what it's been like to be a whistleblower inside the World Bank. I've been inside the World Bank for 20 years, and I've been working together with other World Bank whistleblowers, and we've all been, you know, when you see the elephant and somebody sees the trunk and somebody sees the foot. Well, we've got a whole group, a whole network of whistleblowers, and we've been helping each other figure out exactly what's what and who's doing what to who.
And by the way, I didn't toot your horn properly so folks know who you are. You're a Yale trained lawyer, and you also went to the School of Economics at the University of Amsterdam before you worked at the U.S. Import-Export Bank. I won't go over your whole bio, but you've written World Bank legal documents, legal policy, you name it. So you're one of the biggest whistleblowers in a long time. Please go ahead.
Well, what we found out was that there was a lot of corruption going on. And the thing about corruption is it's kind of like a snowball. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And I reported this corruption to the Senate Committee on Foreign Relations when Joe Biden was the chair and when Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama were in the Senate on that committee.
So you tried to do this through channels for a long time.
That's the way you do it, because that way either they have a chance to solve the problem or you're ready to move on up the ladder. And I've been, you know, I started out in the basement of the World Bank, and when I first saw the problem, it was in the Philippines, where the president of the Philippines was corrupt. And there was the second largest bank in the Philippines, and the World Bank had a project there because there had been the East Asia financial crisis. This was at the end of the 1990s. And what happened was the man who owned Philippine Airlines had borrowed money from this bank and was in default on his loan. And what he did was he bought the employee shares in Philippine National Bank, and then the loan couldn't be dispersed. So I said to the man who was in charge of the program in the Philippines, tell the government they're not going to get the money. And instead they had me reassigned. So what happened was the loan wasn't dispersed for $200 million. And then the people who were depositors in that bank took their money out. So the government had to bail out the bank for $493 million. And there was another loan from Japan for $200 million.
So in layman's terms, it's all designed to fail.
Well, that's $900 million worth of bad loan. It wasn't designed to fail. It failed because the president of the Philippines was corrupt. And then when the World Bank evaluated how the loan went, they said, well, there was this problem, but we couldn't have predicted it. The World Bank did a satisfactory job. And I said, you've got to be kidding. You know, there's an evaluation at the end of the project. I said, that's a cover-up to the board. And that was one of the people I told that to was I was being interviewed for the job of general counsel, and the people that were interviewing me, that was an executive search firm, said, why is it that the general counsels it's like a revolving door. None of them stay for longer than 2 years. I said, because there's a cover-up going on inside this organization. And the thing about the World Bank is it issues bonds on the capital market, and then it takes the money from the bonds, and it invests the money, and it earns profits. And that's how it finances itself. Every now and then it goes to Congress for money, but most of the time it's earning trading profits.
Sure, Karen, you're the expert on this. The reason I bring up the point of giving the third world president or dictator money, depending on which area it is, and then they don't pay it back. It's well known they don't pay it back, and then that signs the country on to perpetual debt. It's kind of like sending a teenager credit cards they can never pay back because you want to get them into debt. But I mean, you were inside of it. That's why I was saying that it's planned to fail.
Well, look, sometimes you have a good project. Sometimes you have a country where it's not a teapot dictator, and then it's not such a bad thing. You can, if you're going to put your money in a good investment and it's going to earn a lot, you can pay that loan back. So it's, you can't paint it all with a bad brush. You can't say anybody that goes to a place like that, it knows that it's there to, snooker the countries. And so anybody that...
Sure, my point is that the IMF and World Bank are more and more known as being predatory, and Joseph Stiglitz has talked about that. I mean, you probably knew him; he was the chief economist there at the World Bank. But okay, so like getting to
I guess what I'm trying to say is that there are good people in that place,
sure.
There are good projects, and some of the good people stood up for what was right and became whistleblowers.
Sure,
and we've been working together to turn this thing around. Because underlying it all, it doesn't have to be a predatory bank. And I think that it can get us from here to there. There meaning a straightforward, transparent international financial system where countries can actually turn their situation around. That's
look, I get. I get that having transparency and nationalizing things or whatever. Obviously, these institutions probably could be turned into something good. Obviously, there's good people inside, evidenced by you. But for lay folks out there, explain the precipice you say we're on and why you've gone public.
Okay, I can tell you right now, we were on a precipice, and I'm pretty sure that we're turning the Titanic around. Somebody told me that's a bad metaphor because the Titanic hits the iceberg, but I happen to think we've just narrowly missed the iceberg, and I think we are turning it around. And the reason I think that is because I've testified in the UK Parliament twice. They put my testimony up on their website. I testified in the European Parliament. And the thing about the World Bank is it's also a knowledge bank. Some people that have really good technical advice go to the World Bank, and then their advice gets built into the projects. And one of these really good pieces of software is something they call a stakeholder analysis, which if you get a country expert who knows, exactly what's going on in the country. And when I say exactly what's going on in the country, I mean on a given problem, they know who's involved in the problem, either making it worse or making it better, where they stand, how powerful they are. And if you take that information and you put it in a computer game simulation, you can get a really good idea of where the coalitions are for improving.
Sure, but the hedge funds are using these war games to bring down countries to consolidate them. I mean, undoubtedly, there's those hyenas involved.
This software, I can tell you, if you're trying to figure out how to avoid a problem, it will give you a really good blueprint. And I asked these people in 2004 to model rule of law. And I'll tell you who designed this model. It's a man by the name of Jacek Kugler. He's a professor at the Claremont University, but he's also been the president of a number of political science analysts, their groups. In any event, I modeled rule of law, and it told me in 2004 that if the U.S. didn't play by the rules, we were going to lose the ability to just name the president of the World Bank. There was going to have to be an election process.
So that's the U.S. losing dominant control of a major system of the world government.
That's right, and that's what happened in 2010. But I went to the Treasury Department in 2006, and I said, this model is accurate, and we better straighten ourselves out. And we didn't straighten ourselves out. And then I told you I went to the Senate Committee on Foreign Relations, and Senator Lugar was there. He wrote 3 letters to the World Bank saying, don't fire this lady. And they did anyway. And I didn't mind, actually, because I had been there for 20 years. I had a pension, and I just wanted to get the problem solved. So I've been working pretty much full-time on this problem. I have gone to anybody who couldn't run away from me fast enough to tell them that we were involved in a collision course. Because after I saw this problem, looking at it from the World Bank, which is like a microcosm, I then read a larger study that was written around the same time, and it was talking about the world. It wasn't talking about the World Bank. And this said that if we didn't start playing by the rules, there was going to be a currency war, and China was going to come up way fast. If we started playing by the rules, we would be able to solidify our relationship with our allies. And
well, that's the same thing I'm getting from all my Pentagon sources, is that even if they're corrupt, they realize that it's going to wreck the power if they continue to print all this money, cheat everybody, do all these things. And so that's why you're seeing such big shakeups around the world. But
exactly. And so, for example, the people inside the Defense Department that were familiar with the stakeholder analysis, the minute Secretary Hagel was named, I went to the Inspector General in the Department of Defense, and I said, this model is saying that we have got to clean up our act, or we're going to be, you can read the model as well as I do. And the next week, I got an email from LinkedIn from the person inside the Defense Department who had been working on that model. I had spoken directly to Secretary Hagel when he was a senator from Nebraska.
Yeah, so they know the corruption. Sure. So we're going to go to break. This is powerful. Let's come back with that. But I'm familiar with this just from some of my sources. They realize the snowball of corruption is so out of control, they can't even control themselves. And it's going to force everyone to leave the dollar, not because they hate America, but because it's going to destroy them if they don't. Is that accurate?
We've turned it around. We're not leaving the dollar, and we'll talk about gold at the other end of your break.
All right, I want to hear what you have to say about that. Former World Bank insider Karen Hudes is our guest, and she certainly has a lot of info for us. And then I was talking to her in the break, so I want to get this straight about whistleblowing, about you having some issues with that. I want to find out what's happening on that front straight ahead. And we'll also give you her website on the other side for listeners that want to check that out. All this and more straight ahead. I'm Alex Jones. You're listening to the GCN Radio Network, GCNlive.com, and my websites are Infowars.com. KAHudes.net, and 20 years at the World Bank as a lawyer, high level, writing policy, graduate there of Yale Law School, also the School of Economics in Amsterdam. And she's got a criminal trial coming up for whistleblowing, basically, with Holder. And wait till you hear about this, what they're using to go after her. I mean, I've been told by high-level NSA people, not just Wayne Madsen, that's what the NSA now is just used to spy on everything from police to bureaucrats to preachers, but mainly financial people and then government people. But they want to know what influencers are up to. And it's all so illegal. And they've got over 800,000 private contractors in the U.S. alone with top secret clearances that can just dial in and look at everything you're doing privately. And they're getting caught using it to harass people and go after their wives or steal from people. I mean, it is just a criminal gang, like a snowball, like she said. If you want to support us, folks, we've got a 15% off ProPure and support yourself getting the best gravity-fed filters out there. Infowarsstore.com, 15% off. We never do this special. We've done it one time before with promo code WATER15, Infowarsstore.com. Okay, we only got about 4 or 5 minutes left, and we're going into overdrive. If stations don't carry this next hour, people can find the free podcast at Infowars.com/show and the audio and video feeds that are coming out. And be sure and support our local AM and FM stations. It's just this info is an emergency transmission. It's too important. We're going to keep going here. We only have about 4 minutes left in this segment. Tell me about the persecution you're going through, but the good news of the governors being aware. Go ahead.
Okay, the persecution is very simple. I have to go to criminal court on the 30th of May. Eric Holder's people are there waiting for me, the district attorney for the District of Columbia. And I'm charged with trespass, which is impossible because the 188 ministers of finance that run the World Bank wanted me back there. So it's trumped-up charges, and, you know, that's what they're trying.
Yeah, you were telling me the security firm, you know, is owned by the globalists, so that's how crazy it is that you go back for a meeting there, and then they charge you with this.
That's right. Well, actually, what I did was I sent an email to the commissioner of police, Michael Reese, and I said, if you don't think I'm really reinstated, you just, here's the email address of the man who's in charge of the development committee. That's the president of the National Bank of Poland. Or you can ask the dean of the board of executive directors, Dr. Hassan. And he didn't do that. So he suckered me there. And then he handcuffed me and kept me outside in his squad car for an hour. All right? So that's the first part. Now, let me just skip ahead to something that everybody ought to know and doesn't know. And that is that Germany asked for their gold back. First they asked, you know, the Federal Reserve has their gold, 300 tons of it, and Germany asked to see it. The Federal Reserve wouldn't let them in, and the Treasury Department sent them a paper audit with 4 pages worth of, gobbledygook saying, we think it's there. And so Germany said, okay, we want our gold back. And the Federal Reserve said, Germany, take a hike. You can have it maybe in 7 years. Now, that's an act of war. That's not very good at all.
And that shows how, and now they're grabbing people's private bank accounts, and now they're MF Global. All of this, it shows how precarious everything is.
Well, it's not so precarious because I have been telling the attorneys general now for 2 years. And what I did was I bought a World Bank bond. I'm a lawyer. That means the World Bank is not immune. And I sued the World Bank for securities fraud. And I sued the auditors of the World Bank, KPMG, because they were cooking the books. And what happened in court...
Hold on, stay there. We're back in 60 seconds. Straight ahead with former World Bank employee and whistleblower. You can read Karen Hudes' profile at Forbes.com. The Yale Law School and Economics at the University of Amsterdam. She worked for the U.S. Export-Import Bank from 1980 to 85, and then the legal department of the World Bank from 86 to 2007. And since then, she's been behind the scenes whistleblowing through channels, and she established the Non-Governmental Organization Committee of the International Law Section of the American Bar Association and the Committee on Multilateralism and Accountability, the Organization of International Organizations, the American branch of the International Law Association. This is like a 5-minute segment, long segment coming up, and I'll reintroduce you for people that just joined us. You were getting into Germany, and I remember 2 years ago my sources saying other countries want their gold. Germany was listed. That was Bob Chapman told me that. He's now died about a year ago. I think a year ago this month. Well, I guess he died in June, early June. But it'll be a year. Wow. But he was saying that from his sources. But I guess you knew about this beforehand. Now that has been in the news. Please continue with what's going on in the world.
What's going on in the world is actually good news. I mean, it sounds like we're building up to a huge confrontation, but the fact of the matter is when things get to, to the last corner, people start acting reasonable who haven't been reasonable before. And the governors understand where we're headed, that we have a choice that's either rule of law or a currency war. And guess what won? Rule of law. It won. And so what I expect we're going to be seeing in short order is, the first thing that we're going to be seeing is that people are going to recognize that the mainstream media is owned by the same economic group. What business do they have telling us what our news is? This story that you're hearing from me for the first time, it wasn't because I wasn't trying to get through to you all. It's because there was censorship. And so once people recognize that there's censorship, why should all of your media be owned by these financial interests? The simple answer is that it shouldn't be, and it won't be. That's going to be corrected. I've been telling the credit rating agencies for the longest time about these problems. When there was the election, who was Mitt Romney's national security planning chief? It was Robert Zoellick, the former president of the World Bank, who was denied a second term because of corruption. And so when there was the presidential debate, I asked CBS to cover that question. I said, why don't you ask the candidates what they're doing about international corruption? There was no question for the voters. What kind of presidential election is it if there's corruption and the media won't tell the voters? This is a real problem, and this problem is now, that's the biggest thing I have to tell about my whistleblowing.
And you're saying the U.S. could lose control of the World Bank?
Excuse me?
You're saying the U.S. could lose control of the World Bank?
What I'm saying is that if the U.S. doesn't start playing by the rules, we are going to lose the dollar as an international currency. The World Bank is a microcosm in the very center of the international financial system. And if we're not telling our people that we have a reputation for scofflaws, that we don't tell the bondholders what their financial statements are, this can't continue.
Yeah, it's a massive loss of, well, listen, it looks like they're getting ready for the loss of confidence, and they think paramilitary takeover is going to protect them. All I see is government running around battening down the hatches like it's the end of the world or something.
Well, here's the point. There won't have to be that kind of a shakedown because we have a federal system. The people who invented our country knew what they were doing.
Oh, I know. Absolutely. They sure did. Ma'am, stay there. I want to hear about this. Talk to me like I'm 5 years old, though. Start from the beginning. Lay it all out. Get into what's happening with gold. Wow, I'm glad we got you on the show. And hat tip to John B. Wells. All right, folks, if you just joined us, a major insider whistleblower, and the Justice Department's trying to persecute her over this, Karen Hudes, kahudes.net. Here's her Forbes profile. Who is Karen Hudes? She, again, is from Yale Law School and also University of Amsterdam in economics. She worked as the U.S. Export-Import Bank on U.S. from 1980 to 85, and then in the legal department of the World Bank from 86 to 2007. She started blowing the whistle then to Congress quietly, but through channels. She established the Non-Governmental Organization Committee of International Law section of the American Bar Association and the Committee on Multi-Transnationalism and the Accountability of the International Organizations of the American Branch of the International Law Association. And she joins us now to continue breaking this down. So what is the big picture? What's happening with gold? What will happen if we lose the world dollar reserve currency status? And where is the corruption, the main centers of corruption right now in the IMF and World Bank?
Okay, I'll answer your last question first, because I'm sure your listeners are saying, why should I take this lady's word for it? It's not my word for it. There's very accurate data on who owns the transnational companies, 40,000 of them. And there's a group of mathematicians in Switzerland at an institute that's the #1 university in Europe. And what they did was they did a model of that accurate ownership data, and they found out that there's a group of 147 companies, and most of these are financial institutions, and they own 40% of the net worth of the stock market all over the world, and they own 60% of the earnings. But it's not like they have a lot of money. They did it through interlocking corporate directorates in a very clever way, in a secret way, and it's only because those mathematicians were able to model it that they found out that, guess what, all these separate companies, because of the interlocking directorates, they're all actually one conglomerate. So you have a world conglomerate of corruption that goes around, and they're the ones that own the Federal Reserve. They're the ones that own all of the media. Now, in the last 20 years, the number of owners of the major media in the U.S. went from 50 down to 5. Guess what? Those 5 are actually through interlocking directorates. They're all one company, one group. So you've got a central, what this study calls it, is a super entity. You have a super entity that thinks it can control the world. Guess what? We people are a little smarter than that. Those mathematicians modeled it, caught those people with their hands in the cookie jar, and we've been, and when I say we, it's a group of World Bank whistleblowers, and we've gone around and we have, we've reported the fact that the World Bank financial statements are incorrect, and the auditing firm that was supposed to say whether or not they were reliable financial statements, that was KPMG, that's one of the main 5 auditing firms, didn't follow the audit rules. So these stocks are traded not just in the federal system, but don't forget you have the state attorneys general are responsible for protecting their state investors. So the states are now working to solve the problem. And so we're not going to have a situation where there's, chaos and whatnot. We just have our states are going to clean up the mess in the federal government.
Okay, so, and when he was a senator, you say you advised Hagel of this and many others, and we're seeing some evidence they're trying to write this because, not out of altruism, but because it will wreck their own system they're already in control of. The globalists brag that they have this combine, this group of insiders that are given the free credit, that are given the insider knowledge, that are able to manipulate things, that are given the loans at 0% interest, or in some cases even lower. And they're establishing this global corporatocracy. But you're saying that you see that the establishment is starting to reverse itself. But if this group already has leverage control of everything, how is that the case? Because I'm not trying to be pessimistic. I hope you're right. All I see is militarization of police, training to take on the people worldwide, and a conversion to a collapsed economy with these people the only ones that have any of the resources. And I see a premeditated program to implode the world, be the only ones left with resources, to then buy everything up for pennies on the dollar, with kind of a eugenics overlay of social Darwinism as the political rationale that they're doing God's work. So what are the signs you say that this has been turned around? And then break down this term that I had never heard of to show my ignorance here of this backwardization.
Okay. I can tell you what signs you can see. The fact that I'm on your program, the fact that your listeners are hearing about it, and are they going to be sitting on their hands? No, I hope not. They're going to be in touch with their governors, and they're going to say, you get this thing straightened out. And I can tell you that I have had a lot of help, and it's just been incredible. And so I'm not the only one that's telling these corporate kleptomaniacs that, no, they didn't, they may have had plans for it, but it was nipped in the bud. They were caught with their hand in the cookie jar, and it's not happening. And it's not happening in the biggest way. And, I mean, it's not like the listeners can just sort of sit back and say, okay, the problem's solved. No, you're part of the solution. You stay tuned. You figure out what's going on. You get active. You work together with.
All right. Well, what are the signs?
Community.
What are the signs you're seeing that there are insane parts of the establishment trying to reverse this and trying to secure the dollar's world reserve currency status?
Okay. You'll see it, for example, in one of these bills that the mega banks are going to have to pay more money. They're going to have stronger reserves because they're too big to fail, so they've got to have a bigger capital requirement. That's a proposal from, I'm trying to remember the two
So you
senators.
think the Wall Street Journal's right that Bernanke's out in August and they're going to raise interest rates?
I don't know about when Bernanke's out, but I can tell you that I've been writing to the Federal Reserve because Bernanke is on something called the National Advisory Council on international monetary and financial policies.
Yes.
That's a big, long name. But basically what that is that the Secretary of the Treasury heads that.
That's coordination with other governments.
There is a lot of coordination with other governments. I was up all night last night sending faxes to all of the 188 ministers of finance that run the World Bank to give them an update on this. They've been aware of this problem. They've seen it coming, and they wanted me to try to rally the troops.
And so you're saying after 6 years of whistleblowing, you're starting to see signs that show the establishment gets it, which I would think is sane. I don't get destroying the world system to get power when these people are already in power. I mean, it's just pure nastiness, pure craziness, a bunch of hedge fund hyena guys leveraging trillions worth tens of billions apiece, like Jamie Dimon and all of them, trying to show off to one another, that they've got 50 jet copters and you've only got 30. Meanwhile, there's no civilization. I mean, is that what you're saying, is that you're seeing signs that sanity is entering the building?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, these guys, instead of wearing their status as a CEO in this network of control as a sign of great esteem, these guys are going to be seen for what they really are, crooks. No, I think we're in good shape. Actually, I'm just going to start really enjoying to see how these people are brought down to earth with the rest of us. They're not above the law. The law is there, and one of the points I wanted to make is that it's not like we're talking about world government. We're talking about just the opposite. The one thing that we're going to have is we're going to have world rationality. We're going to have law applying to these crooks that thought they were going to get away with it.
Well, ma'am, I'm no economist and Harvard lawyer like you, but I do try to study this, and I talk to a lot of the world's experts, and I really find what you say to be pretty accurate from some of the things I'm saying. What I think's going on here is there's a battle over the future, and are we going to let these crazy, arrogant, private central bankers and hedge fund people really melt down our whole future just so they can, run everything when they already run everything? But what's going on with gold then? Or, I mean, are we going to see prosecution of these people? Or will we just see them basically, sent to absentia or like Napoleon or something?
Well, the first thing we're going to see is, and the reason why we're all coming together on this now is because we were going to run out of time. The thing about gold backwardization is that people who have gold will not sell it for paper money because the paper money doesn't seem to be trustworthy. And the first reason why the dollar wouldn't be seen to be trustworthy is because we've got these fake accountant audits that aren't following the accounting rules. There are a number of whistleblowers inside the World Bank who saw that the numbers weren't adding up, and when they reported it, they would get thrown out with no recourse. So if that happens inside a banking institution, you can't rely on the financial information. And so that means that all the regulators in the world have got to crack down. And so what you're going to have is you're not going to have one central place that's going to run the world, but you're going to have all of the different local places, the states, applying the same rule, but being able to do that all together because of the flow of information. And so what I've had now, and the other world whistleblowers have had, is we've seen, for example, the UK Parliament is now helping the governors crack down on these illegal financial...
Sure, and I mean, Iceland's thrown them out as well, but then I see the acceleration of looting of bank accounts in Cyprus and places. Some would argue that was actually robbing the bureaucrats' money that had already been robbed as well. Some people even claim that was like a reverse robbery. But let me ask you this question then. I don't see these globalists turning loose of power. I think they're too dangerous to not be locked up. I understand there's also a danger in running them to ground because then they're cornered. But, I mean, I don't see these people ever giving up. It's kind of like Corzine making 30-1, 40-1 bets with other people's money that were dangerous bets to begin with. So their arrogance is their undoing, but also makes them that much more dangerous. And I understand there's a lot of people you talk to that are listening to you in the system, but I don't see these globalists, these New World Order people, I don't see them giving up. I mean, I just don't see the proof of sanity. I mean, are you saying maybe all these scandals coming out and Congress growing somewhat of a spinal cord, and they actually are doing some real investigations now, is that a sign of what's happening?
I'll tell you what I think is going to be the mechanism for the transformation. It's going to be the transparency and the flow of information. And so you're going to see scandals. You're going to see these people shamed. It's not so much, I mean, I can't speak to...
So you're saying a flood, I'm saying this, a flood of whistleblowers who think they can't get us all if we all start flooding info. So instead of meeting in the parking garage, because everything's spied on, everybody start whistleblowing, that would bring them down.
That's exactly what's happening. That's exactly the mechanism. And in terms of how this is going to work with the fiat currency, which is the paper money, versus money which is backed by precious metals, or I've also, recently been talking to a number of people who think that there's also going to be commodities that are worth, market, like oil or coal or other commodities will also back currency, so that it's not just going to be precious metals. Because the thing is, if you just stick to the precious metals, the people who now have the precious metals are going to be, they're going to have a leg up. It's not fair. So there's going to be, in other words, there's going to be a transition where the strong money is going to start to replace the paper currency. But it's not going to be like the paper currency goes out of circulation from 1 minute to the next. It's not going to be abrupt. And just the same way, we're not going to have automatically good rule of law. We're not going to automatically have people paying more attention to ethics than, survival of the fittest in the marketplace. We're gonna all pull ourselves up by our bootstraps.
Well, I agree with you. Everything's in a process. Either we shift back towards rule of law, transparency, stability, freedom, or we keep going down this path. But they're going to have to bring in total tyranny under their plan, because everyone, not just mathematicians, is going to know the bureaucrats are exempt, the bankers are exempt, the head of GE is exempt, Google's exempt from taxes. We're seeing whistleblowers out of Google, high level, as you pointed out, going public. So I am seeing, as people realize, we're all screwed if we don't beat these people. It's us or them. But if we don't beat them, they're going to go all the way, because they're going to have a total tyranny in a system where everybody knows they're above the law and that they stole their wealth. I mean, the justice will be served. They are not going to get away with it. They are blowing up society so they can be in charge of it. None of us should put up with that.
And we're not. It's not happening. And I think they already know that. I mean, this stakeholder analysis that I was talking about, I mean, it's really, it's pretty clear that either there's going to be rule of law, or there's going to be a system where we have to go back to the Middle Ages, because there won't be any way to finance trade.
Wow, you really know what you're talking about, and that's what they want. The Bilderberg Group for 50 years says they're going to do this, and then we're going to go back to feudalism, and they're going to be like in Elysium bases, but on the ground and on ships. That's crazy.
That's not happening. It's not happening.
Wow, I'm really impressed with you. And I just, it's so good to know there's all these whistleblowers, and thank God that John B. Wells got you on, because that's a big show with about 6 million listeners a night. And I hope our listeners get your info. We've only got a minute or two left. I want to get you back on. I know you're facing all this whistleblower persecution, but you've got a lot of great info on your website for people to visit. Anything else you'd like to impart to the listeners?
No, just hang in there. Be part of the process to get ourselves back in shape. And again, I just want to emphasize that we've got a federal government, and our states are alive and well, thank you.
Well, I mean, if the federal government wasn't training to fight veterans all day, I would think that's true. But you're saying, federal government people, what I've seen...
I don't mean the federal government is good. I mean, we have a federal system and the states are good.
Well, listen, I agree with that, but expanding on that, I think the system's overshot when they go and say, prepare to wage war with the American people, and the biggest enemy are people that want to, abolish the Federal Reserve. I think it's really woken the military and police up that they actually are training them for war with us. I think they've gone too far.
I don't think there's going to be anything close to a war with us because, as I said, once more, we have our local government. We have our state government. Those governments are ours, and they're not going anywhere. We're fine. We're in good shape.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right. But, I mean, certainly you see, being at the World Bank and the IMF also had the plan when they imploded economies, so they went south, the IMF riot model. They are gearing up. The oligarchs think, the kleptocratic oligarchs, the kleptogarchs, I just invented a new word, the kleptogarchs think they're really going to make it. Or more and more I do see them running scared in their actions. Are you saying they figured out they're going to lose?
They lost already. The only question is if they try to make it a painful transition, they're going to be in worse shape than they're in already. They hold their own future in their own hands. And they can be reasonable and just go with the flow and be subject to the law like the rest of us and enjoy it. It's really going to be a better world.
I hope you're right. But I tell you, we were sitting on a time bomb. This isn't turned around quick.
It's already turned around is what I'm trying to tell you.
Well, I hope you're right.
I think I'm right.
When did it start turning around?
That's a good question. I'm just now starting to get caught up with some of, I'll just name a couple of names, all right? There's this really neat national security whistleblower named Mark Nowitzki, and he educated me on a lot of the, the internal spying, what was going on. And, when you've got that kind of person who's helping and informing everybody else, it's like we just reinforce each other. And so I just have every bit of confidence that, we know where the system's gained. And it's not like one of us knows it. We all know it because we've all shared this information.
So the cat's out of the bag. People are now aware of the program. And then once people realize that there can be evil going on, then they start to recognize all of it. And I do see the sleeping giant awakening right now.
That's exactly the point. That's exactly the point.
And then once we're not naive anymore, we can recognize it, and then that begins the healing process. Or the bankers set off a nuke in Chicago and bring in martial law. But, I think now that people know the type of stuff they can pull, that doesn't have the same power anymore. Our only big problem is they've got all the churches working for the government saying it's the end of the world, so all the Christians stand down. So it's a serious fight. I want to say bye to you during this break. I want to invite you back on later in the week after your court date for your evil thought crimes. And I'm sorry to the callers. I was going to get to you, but I had to go into overdrive because this information was so bombshell. We're going to post this interview up on the YouTube channel and everywhere by tonight. Everybody's got to get this interview out to everyone they know. And her website, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to visit it, is kahudes.net. We'll link it up on Infowars.com as well. Nightly News Tonight will undoubtedly be covering this as well, 7 o'clock Central. And if you haven't shared your membership with others, please share it today. 11 people can log in simultaneously at prisonplanet.tv. But we are in the middle of a war right now. Those kids and hurt them bad. And, of course, you've already got brain-damaged, mindless, idiot government workers, even the ones that aren't pedophile control freaks. And they just like to follow their orders. And that's the model that is already coming to the U.S. and Australia. Scotland, every child to have state guardian. Now, remember what MSNBC said. Remember what MSNBC said. They said, we've got to break, in a promo, we've got to break the idea that your kids belong to you. They belong to us in the community with this weird academic lisping woman. Most of these people are so anti-life, they don't even have kids. Your kids are their kids. And that's where these people then get kids to adopt and then get paid to adopt them after they've run them through a ringer. They take them from you. Then they get to warehouse them. They get to put them on 5 or 6 drugs. They get the power trip of wrecking a child, a slow human sacrifice. And by the way, I've had social workers on that have blown the whistle. I've had people that have been foster parents, and they will tell you that the state is put them on as many drugs as possible. If they raise their voice, we get to put them on more drugs. We're gonna really all get rich off of hurting this kid. I mean, this is what it is. And people are like, oh yeah, human sacrifice. That's pretty much what this society is. That's what it's based on. These are government. The New World Order is actually a society where the weak get to hurt the strong and the beautiful. The secret of eugenics is it was created by inbred globalist royalty in Europe and funded by the Rothschilds and others and picked up by Hitler, which just shows they're all birds of a feather that fly together in their lust for power and domination and control. And they actually target just normal, healthy human activity because it's a threat to them because they never had it. And so they're going to destroy it, and they're going to be the only people left standing. And they're exempt from all the taxes, the regulations. I was seeing statistics this morning. I think I'll get to it in the stack, where all over the Western world, they're raising the pay of government bureaucrats. And it's just growing and growing. That's the plan. Wreck everything. Transfer the wealth. That's the program. Let's go to that clip of Perry on MSNBC.
Haven't had a very collective notion of these are our children. So part of it is we have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities. Once it's everybody's responsibility and not just the households, then we start making better investments.
Better investments off your labor. 60% of your money in the U.S., 70 to 80% in places like France. It's not enough. They're going to... People ask, well, how are they going to make us live in 200-square-foot coffin apartments? Well, Mayor Bloomberg and also the mayor of San Francisco, mayor of New York and San Francisco have said, we're going to raise property tax until you're forced to live in this. And then they will own the coffin buildings that you live in. And then they'll land in their own private buildings that are, 50,000 square feet for themselves. But they'll get an exemption. They all get exemptions. Bloomberg, Michael Moore, the head of General Electric, Google, they all don't pay taxes. They don't pay. In fact, it's on record that when these really rich billionaires go at restaurants, people have learned everybody kisses their butt because they're rich, and then they don't give a tip. That's on record. Like, you can talk to waiters and people, they'll tell you, rich people, the really rich, they don't give you tips. Middle class does, because they actually worked for where they got. And they actually want to help people. They have an instinct to want to help and build others up and create an economy. The globalists have an instinct, a oligarchical, centralized instinct to wreck everyone. And you will find out. And don't feel bad, though, about the bureaucrats and corrupt police on their power trips. They're all dead, too. They've all been implanted with cancer viruses into their DNA that are hormone released when hormone levels drop. They're all dead. So I know they're hurting you. I know they're squeezing you, taking your kids, wrecking you, driving you into submission. But don't worry, they're all dead, too. It's only 0.1% that are actually in on this whole program. We'll be right back to break down how our government funds al-Qaeda publicly, and now Russia getting involved with Israel threatening to attack Russia. I have hundreds of articles here. I'm going to try to get to as many of them as I can and take a lot of your phone calls today. So what I'm going to do is just tell you some of the news that's coming up, open the phones up in the next hour, start getting into more of the news in detail. But I want you to understand something. If you just joined us, again, Alex Jones here. I'm your host if you're a new listener. The news websites are Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.tv. I work on this and do this research 7 days a week, at least 15 hours a day. And I know what I'm talking about. And when I tell you that GMO has been designed and developed and filled with adjuvants and carcinogens, as well as active, live, microplasm encased nanotech cancer viruses. And they really are nanotech. They're engineered viruses. When I tell you that, and we've done countless reports on that subject, you might want to go look into that. Kind of like for So I pretty much, to a great extent, helped put Mark on the map. But he was already doing great work. He deserved to be on the map. And then he went through his own personal stuff later. I figured that. And I'm not knocking the guy. And kind of went off into a bad area of his life. And it's like the prodigal son. And when the prodigal son came back and the other son said, I've done nothing to you, Father. I've always been faithful. Now you're throwing a party for the prodigal son. He's done all this bad stuff, you know, to you. But it's like, hey, think how much I love you if I'm doing this for the prodigal son. Because I don't think Mark fundamentally is a bad person. And it's like that with everybody. It hurts me to see people that I know have potential destroying it. And it hurts me to see a society that has so much potential. I mean, I took my son to exercise this morning. And we got done exercising at Zilker Park. And I saw a bus pull up with regular kids. They weren't special needs. And I looked at these kids, and they were clearly walking dead, about a third of them. Because, see, when they hit you with GMO, with every mammal species, pigs, guinea pigs, rats, rhesus monkeys, you can look up the studies. They go back really 25 years with BT style. That's the most popular. Corn and things that grow their own pesticides. The first generation has a large IQ reduction, increased cancer, sluggishness, also more aggressiveness sometimes. It manifests depending on your genetic tree, your genetic blueprint, of the type you are. And then by the second generation, and a generation's about 20 years. Humans tend to reproduce by about age 20, 22 is the average, I guess. And we've got all of this, you know, garbage going on, and I sit there and I look at people, and you look at adults now that are one generation, you know, people that are 25, 30 years old under GMO, and you look at the next generation, people that are now 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years old, who were born out of the last generation. My God, man, the next generation, it's going to be, and you can see the numbers, the cancer numbers, the neurological disorder numbers, the infertility numbers. It is parabolic. It is a straight up graph. And that's why they've got to get their police state control grid in first before the real death starts, because you're going to have mad parents. And they said 50 years ago in papers we've dug up and covered on air that they knew some of us would find out about this program. I mean, hell, they write books. The White House Science Czar does about jacking our food and water to sterilize us. And this is the psychopath, sociopath, sadist party. I mean, it's fun for them to, I mean, I go out in public, and I'm from a globalist perspective, but against it. And by globalist perspective, I see what's going on. I am horrified by it. I don't even become enraged anymore. I become very sick. And I can walk over to people that have an autistic child or two. Some people are so submissive, they even when the first one gets brain damage and has a seizure in the second round of shots, they still take the next baby in and do it. They're so submissive. And I'll say, hi, how are you doing? So what's your son's name? Oh, his name's, David. He's 5 years old. And I go, I see he's autistic. What spectrum disorder is that? Oh, why? Do you have an autistic child? Well, no, I'm a parent. I have an interest. And I've done this hundreds of times to the point of my wife and children say, please don't do it. And I will continue to do it because I care. It affects me. The only way I cannot literally go hide, in the mountains somewhere and turn everything off is I have to go try to help people. Not because I'm a hero, folks. I have empathy. If they can target these people's children, they can target all of us, and they are. Spraying us and jacking the water, and it's impossible to avoid all this stuff. And Fukushima, radiation levels off the chart on the West Coast. A year after I told you that, it all came out in the news. Some isotopes, hundreds of times safe levels. EPA's reaction was to raise it, and I'm sitting there, and they go, well, David, he was 18 months old, and I said, oh, what happened? Well, he had a seizure, and then he was asleep for about 3 days, went to the hospital, and then he was like this, but he's getting better. And I'll go, do you ever think it was from the vaccines? Well, we've heard that, and he did have it right after the shot. I mean, hundreds of times. And oh, really? And then they'll go, yeah, and, you know, we've got another child that's autistic, too. But you know, it happened to him, you know, when he was about 18 months, too. And I go, and I see you have a daughter here. She's fine? Mm-hmm. In fact, I was even telling some people that were on the hike and bike trail that had autistic kids this weekend. And the woman looked at me and she said, yeah, girls are better. I was like, wow, you got brain. I didn't say this. I went, and her husband was looking at me. He looked like Clark Kent. It's a great looking family. Their kids have been murdered, soft killed, lobotomized. And I'm sitting there talking to him. And the Clark Kent dad's about 6'4". He's kind of looking at me like, they didn't know who I was. He was like, so why are you telling us this? And I was like, well, girls have a stronger blood-brain barrier. And they go, yeah, girls are better. We've heard that. And I'm like, yeah, I guess they are better. I was like, so what you... It is your PrisonPlanet.tv memberships that fund so much of what we do here in this operation. And then we're more than happy for the TV show after it's aired live, then be leaked out onto the web to tens of millions of people. That's our goal. The ruling class that controls much of this globe through fraud and disinformation prays every day that you be ignorant, that you be stupid, that you be so self-centered that you don't even care about what's happening in society to the point of where you will actually be enslaved and most probably destroyed. They absolutely swim in the ether that is the ignorance gripping our world. I look at the headlines where the former MI5 chief says, the enemy is everywhere, watch your neighbors, extremists are everywhere. And then they segue into nationalist right-wing patriot groups. See, they use the radical Muslims that they protect and shepherd and fund as the overall backdrop for the global war on terror. But then meanwhile, it's really pointed at people that know the criminal governments of the West are the big issue. And that's hiding in plain view. Here in the United States, they're saying, you know, brace for terrorists everywhere. By the way, they're Tea Partiers and conservatives and veterans and gun owners and libertarians and constitutionalists. And it's the same thing over in the UK, same thing in Europe. But then meanwhile, John McCain, if you believe it, snuck across with a, quote, U.S. force out of Turkey into Syria to discuss giving arms to the rebels, and then met with a bunch of Osama bin Laden, Qatari, and Saudi Arabian Wahhabists. I mean, there he is with a bunch of bin Laden lookalikes with real al-Qaeda, with the al-Qaeda brigade. It's actually called the bin Laden brigade that leads the Syrian forces. But when you fly, and there's new videos on Infowars.com, and you don't want to go through the radiation machine to make sure you don't have a bomb on you, they're going to need to look inside you. Well, you know what South Park says. And it's actually true. It's all an act of domination to get their filthy government bureaucratic hands on you. And even the idiots doing it don't even know why they've been hired to do this. Meanwhile, Rand Paul is telling it like it is. He's come out and said properly that our government and the U.S. Senate is arming al-Qaeda. But if you try to talk to the general public who's not informed about this, they go, listen to that. He knows how to talk. He's trying to show off to us. He says the government runs al-Qaeda. Rand Paul, Senate is arming al-Qaeda and rushing to war in Syria. That was last Friday, got almost no attention. Said that on the floor of the Senate. And that is a fact. That is a fact. And I just sit here, and I guarantee you, if I say to TSA, hey, this whole terror threat's fake, the government runs al-Qaeda, oh, yeah, right, just listen to you. Right out of idiocracy. And it's a fact, an oxymoron, a fraudulent, raging paradox hanging in front of our faces. And now you've got multiple FBI agents involved in the so-called investigation of the Boston bombing dead. You've got more Navy SEALs and SEAL Team 6 dying, constantly falling out of helicopters, being run over, being shot, being assassinated, covering up the bin Laden hoax, the killing of bin Laden, covering up what really happened at the Boston bombing. I mean, they are so desperate in the Boston bombing that the media not look at it, just acting completely suspicious. It'd be like if a cop drove by and somebody, saw him and ran into the woods. The cop would say, well, that looks like reasonable suspicion of something here. The government acts totally creepy, totally suspicious, and then publicly commits massive crimes everywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Tuesday, the 28th day of May, 2013. I am your host, Alex Jones, and we're going to be here live for the next 3 hours. We also will return this evening with InfoWars Nightly News, 7 o'clock Central at InfoWarsNews.com. Find all the free iPhone apps, Droid app, free podcast, free video feed of the daytime radio show, audio feeds, everything at InfoWars.com/show. You can also find the links there to our Facebook, Twitter, and 15 years I've been telling you that the plastics they've chosen will change your entire metabolic rate, will make women hyper-feminine and then accelerate aging of their tissues, ending in breast cancer and ovarian cancer and uterine cancer, and will hyper-feminize men, leading to other cancers as well. And then the media spins that I'm being anti-gay because it makes men sexually conflicted in their different glands like the hypothalamus. It also does that to other species, not just other mammals, but other families of animals, amphibians, fish, marsupials. I mean, we're having a giant medical experiment done on us. And I've covered it in the film Endgame. I've covered it in countless reports that we've done here on eugenics. Food, the Ultimate Secret. You can look that up, 25-minute long short film. Brain-eating viruses, brain-eating vaccine. I kind of used a shocking term to get people to watch the video. All of those are out there with the proof of what I just said. And then I sit there watching large minorities of the public, of every race, color, creed, religion, waking up to this, and who are inquisitive and informed and want a future. And then I see other people who wear their ignorance like a suit of armor, whose greatest possession is that they don't care. And some of them aren't even stupid. They consciously believe that not caring about anyone but themselves and being nihilistic and only caring about that minute is powerful and puts them above other people. And that same spirit that you see in the very worst losers, because they're generally incredible, unhappy losers who go around messing with people all day and playing weird games, and they feel completely powerless and they're completely unhappy and they have hellish lives devoid of honor. The globalists are like that, but are a little more sophisticated. And I mean, I'm here to tell you, these people are not humans. There's a 6-minute video up on Infowars.com where Americans have forgotten the meaning or don't know the meaning. I forget the exact headline of Memorial Day. And yeah, there it is, memory hole. Americans no longer know what Memorial Day stands for. And Mark Dice goes out, and he does this in L.A. We do this in Austin and get almost as bad a response. People aren't quite as, but any trendy area. And the people say, I don't care about Memorial Day. I don't care what it is. I don't want to know what it is. I don't care to find out what it is, because it's all about me. And these people don't understand that when other people have that attitude, and they do, at first when people have that attitude, you might be able to get ahead at some level. You'll end up being an unhappy person that dies alone, but you might be able to find people that are stupid that you can cheat and manipulate. And you might be able to monetarily get some symbols of success, but those are garbage trappings. The real wealth is friends and family and being honorable. Not that any of us are perfect, but trying to be honorable is the greatest wealth, and getting to know other honorable people is the greatest experience in life. And I look at these people. We're going to play part of this video when we come back. The full video is up on Infowars.com. And I've talked to Mark. This is really who he talked to. He ran into one woman who knew what Memorial Day was and one man. And the guy, rightfully, who looked like he was about 60 years old, got mad at Mark when Mark was saying, that Memorial Day is for surfers that died. Because you should get mad at someone ignorant. But we're going to play this and then get into all the news and your phone calls. Monday through Friday, from 12 noon to 3 p.m. Eastern. We are here live. Again, my friends, I'm going to be opening the phones up on any of the issues I've raised or any points you'd like to bring up. The toll-free number to join us is 800-259-9231. 800-259-9231. We will get you up and on the air. I want to go over just some of the headlines, and I'm going directly to your calls, and then I'll go back into all of this in more details. But I do want to play part of this Mark Dice piece. He'll be joining us on the radio show tomorrow. Most listeners don't know who Mark Dice is. A lot of you do, though. And some listeners are like, why do you promote Mark Dice, even though Mark Dice has attacked you before? It's because I don't care. Mark does a lot of good work, and so I positively reinforce that good work. And I don't do it Pavlovianly on purpose, but it's kind of like when an ice cream truck comes around, why do kids get so excited? Because the ice cream truck's got good things in it. And, I saw in Mark, I don't know, it's got to be now 8 years ago when he first got started, got out of college with a public relations media degree. He went out and did really great reports and so much more. Okay, wow, where to begin? John McCain, we're going to cover this today, obviously, secretly went to Turkey, the big NATO command base, and infiltrated into Syria, if you even believe that, in a grandstanding event, and met with the leaders of al-Qaeda as part of flaunting in the American people's comatose face that they are heroes and need heavy weapons. And then our so-called press then goes, how dare Obama not have a full-blown war when there is a full-blown war? And then that gives him left cover. Where even Obama, in a 2+ year bombardment, bombing, artillery attacks, fighter bomber attacks, 60,000 troops every few months, rotated in and out at least. That's a conservative number. 120,000 Syrians dead. War of aggression. And they have the neocon chicken hawks running up and down saying, how dare Obama, the commie. How about the New World Orderite, their buddy? And these people are all hanging out together behind the scenes at that level of leadership, ladies and gentlemen. Can then criticize him for not doing enough. And McCain literally sneaks across and met with the opposition leaders. And I saw video and photos of this, and I'm going to cover it coming up later in the hour. It was so degenerate, with the so-called rebel leaders slouched like gang members in their chairs in a conference room in a captured city council. Totally and completely disgusting. them sitting around the council room saying, we are not happy with your government not giving us aid, which is all a set piece to go, we're not giving the darlings aid to fight the Muslim extremist. Our public is so dumbed down. I've heard them, I know you've heard them on talk radio go, we need to fight al-Qaeda in Libya and Syria, when our criminal banker-occupied government are the ones putting al-Qaeda in, and then using al-Qaeda as the menacing threat to take our liberties, set up a Homeland Security spy grid, which in all the training manuals has nothing to do with Muslim extremists. It has to do with you and your farm and your ranch or your business and your guns and your children and how they're going to forcibly inoculate you. It is the social engineer, control freak, nanny state that wants in your life all over the globalist controlled world. That's every country but about 10. They've almost got global government in. They haven't mopped up state governments within governments. They haven't shut down all the free press here and there, but they're very close. And the goal is run your life. The goal is control your life. The goal is dominate you and your family. That's why the exact same programs you see in Germany are in Australia, are in the United States, are in England, are in Canada, are in Wales, are in Scotland, are in Mexico. Because the globalists control the issuance of currency and credit. And coming up in the next hour, I'm going to spend some time on this. Scotland, every child to have state guardian from birth that spies on the parents and that trains the child that the state is their parent and trains the child to report on their parents. This is what communist China did when Mao took over. This is the standard program. And, of course, who is 7 times more likely to abuse a child than any other group worldwide? Government. Who gets into this type of work because they like to abuse children? You know who. God help us. And then if you're actually poor and your kids are running around, you know, drinking sewage water in a third world country, the globalists there aren't any social workers. But if it's in the West, they target Christians, libertarians, conservatives, gun owners, people that have shining-eyed children who aren't eating GMO and who aren't vaccinated. That's come out in the training manuals. We're going to cover this and we'll cover it more on the nightly news and throughout the week. I want to show you what their plan is, who they go after. In fact, it's in the Australian news. They're going to be, Germany is about as far advanced in this as any other country other than communist China. And Germany arrest homeschoolers, arrest parents who try to homeschool children, and then spends massive amounts of money. In fact, type in court rules German family to be sent back to Germany. Homeschooling family to be sent back to Germany. It was in the news last week. Human Events covered it. And they've been here for 3 years. Upper middle class, professional family with their children homeschooling. They faced prison time, like Anne Frank, for secretly homeschooling and not going to the government facility to be turned against their family, shot up full of deadly cancer virus-filled shots and put through the eugenics operation. And so they fled as political asylum seekers here, and they are being sent back to prison. Their children will be taken. Homeschooling family who fled to U.S. from Germany faces deportation. Parents face charges and $9,000 fine for taking kids out of school as Obama officials prepare to send them back. Yeah, and that's a London, that's a Daily Mail whitewash. If you pull up Human Events, it says they're facing, I think it's 5 years in prison apiece, and the state is licking their chops. They're going to get to hurt